Welcome back to Iron Fate Stories. How is your day going today? Today, we're diving once again into incredibly exciting and thrilling stories about bikers. If you enjoy the content, please like, share, and subscribe to get notified about the latest stories. Enjoy the show.
Single mom returned a lost biker ring in the rain. The engraving made her knees buckle. The ring hit Hannah Carter's palm like a chunk of winter, too heavy, too cold, too wrong to be sitting in a puddle outside Miller's grocery at midnight. Rain slammed the parking lot, turning the asphalt into black glass. The band was thick silver, skull and wings raised on top, the kind of emblem people in Balar only whispered about. She should have left it. Instead, she wiped the grime with her sleeve and, without meaning to, turned it inward. The engraving flashed under the streetlight. Hannah's knees buckled so hard she had to grab the cart corral to keep from going down. She blinked at the letters, waiting for her eyes to fix themselves. They didn't. For Noah, always. Noah, before we continue, tell us in the comments where you are watching this from. Her 5-year-old, the one sleeping on Mrs. Delgado's couch across the hall because Hannah worked nights and didn't trust the busted lock on her own door. Rain ran down her neck. A car rolled past, wipers thumping, and the driver didn't even slow. Hannah stood there breathing hard, the ring slick in her fist, like the metal had found her on purpose. Everybody knew the Iron Hounds. Friday nights they came through town in a wall of chrome and noise. They drank at the Rusty Anchor by the rail yard. People crossed the street when they saw those patches. And this ring wasn't a souvenir. It was a marker. Hannah slid it into her coat pocket and felt it press against her hip like a warning. For one ugly second, her brain did the math. Pawn it, pay daycare, buy Noah a coat, fix the lock. Then she pictured a biker on her porch, Noah peeking from behind her legs, and her stomach turned. "No," she whispered, "not like that." She shoved her groceries into her beat-up sedan, started the engine, and sat there staring at the wet road. Going home meant pretending she hadn't seen the engraving. Taking it to the police meant explaining why a ring with her son's name was on the street. So she drove toward the Rusty Anchor with the heater barely working and her hands tight on the wheel. The Anchor's neon sign flickered green through the rain. Motorcycles lined the front like sleeping animals, 10 of them at least, chrome gleaming under the streetlight. Hannah parked far back, killed the engine, and swallowed until her throat hurt. She stepped into the rain and crossed the lot fast, head down, coat already soaked through. Inside, heat and noise hit her at once, bass from a jukebox, laughter, the sharp smell of beer and wet leather. Conversations didn't stop, but they thinned the second she walked in with grocery bags and rain in her hair. A bartender with tattooed forearms watched her like she'd tracked mud onto a clean floor. Hannah forced herself to the bar, set the bags down, and kept her voice steady. "I found something outside. I think it belongs to one of you." The bartender's eyes flicked past her, toward the back where a pool table sat under a hanging lamp. 3 men were there, one built like a truck, arms folded, one lean, restless cue stick spinning. The third sat on the edge of the table, boots hooked on a chair rung, head tilted like he was listening to the room breathe. When that third man looked up, the air changed. He wasn't the biggest, but people shifted without meaning to. His hair was dark, damp at the ends. His eyes were pale and steady, and they pinned Hannah like he already knew what she'd brought in. Hannah's mouth went dry. She reached into her pocket and set the ring on the bar. The heavy clink cut through the music. Every head turned, chairs scraped. The lean man by the pool table stopped spinning the cue. The bartender's hand disappeared under the counter. Hannah lifted both hands, palms open. "It was in a puddle at Miller's. I didn't want it to wash away. I'm returning it." The big man walked up first, slow and certain. He stopped close enough that Hannah caught the smell of rain and smoke on his jacket. A pale scar ran along his jaw. "You touched it," he said. "It was getting swept toward a drain," Hannah said. "I'm sorry." He stared at her grocery bags like he expected a weapon to jump out. Then the man with the pale eyes reached the bar. No rush, no wasted movement. He didn't look at Hannah first. He looked at the ring. He picked it up and turned it, skull and wings catching the light. His gaze lifted to her face. "You found it at Miller's," he said, not asking. Hannah nodded. And you came here, after midnight, in this weather. I just wanted it back with its owner. His eyes held hers, calm but not soft. What's your name? Saying it felt like stepping onto ice. Hannah. His fingers stilled on the ring, just for a beat. He flipped it over and looked inside. The color drained from his face so fast it made Hannah's stomach drop. The big scar-jawed biker stared at him, then at the ring, like he'd never seen the man surprised in his life. The pale-eyed man's voice went quiet. What did it say? Hannah's throat tightened. It said, "For Noah. Always." A ripple moved through the room, small, involuntary. The scar-jawed man's posture shifted like he'd just realized the night had teeth. The pale-eyed man didn't look away from Hannah. That's your child. Yes. He turned his head. Riot. Go to Miller's. Pull the camera footage before it loops. Then to the bartender. Sam. Towel. A bar towel slapped the counter. Hannah caught it and pressed it to her hair, trying to stop shaking. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. She flinched. Answer it, the president said. Hannah pulled it out. Mrs. Delgado's name lit the screen. She put it on speaker. Hello? Hannah, Noah woke up, the older woman whispered. He's asking for you. Hannah's chest tightened. Tell him I'm coming, she said, forcing her voice steady. I love him. I'll be there soon. She ended the call and looked up. Now can I go? Not yet, the president said. He glanced at the ring in his fist like it weighed 100 pounds. You walked into my house with my ring and my son's name inside it. Hannah's blood went cold. I don't know what you're talking about. Wallet, the scar-jawed man growled. Hannah stiffened. No. He didn't move closer, but the message was clear. Don't make this a scene. Hands trembling, Hannah set her wallet on the bar. The president opened it, quick and controlled. License, cards, then a small photo behind plastic. Noah grinning, holding a paper dinosaur. The president's thumb froze on the edge of the picture. For a beat, the room forgot to breathe. When he looked up, recognition was unmistakable, and it scared Hannah more than anger would have. Outside, headlights swept across the front windows, slow and circling. Several bikers shifted toward the doors. The president slid the wallet back to her without taking his eyes off her. Brick, 2 on the back. Nobody leaves alone. Then he stepped away from the bar, and the room parted for him. Hannah hesitated, then followed, because staying put felt worse. Brick moved behind her, not touching, but close enough that she could feel his heat through her wet coat. A hallway opened behind the bar, dim and narrow. The president pushed through a door marked Employees Only and held it just long enough for Hannah to slip in. The noise of the bar dulled behind them, replaced by the hum of a refrigerator and the distant drum of rain on metal. Name, he said as soon as the door shut. Hannah Carter, she answered, breathless. Why did you say? How old is Noah? He cut in. Hannah's mouth went dry again. 5, his jaw flexed. Birthday. Hannah stared at him. No, you don't get to. A hard knock hit the door behind them. Brick's voice came through, muffled but urgent. Prez, there's a cruiser outside. Deputy Walsh. The president's eyes flicked toward the door, then back to Hannah. The calm was still there, but it had teeth now. Tell me his birthday, he said, because if Walsh is here, that ring didn't just get lost in the rain. Tell me his birthday, the man with the pale eyes said. Hannah's heart kicked hard enough to make her dizzy. The little back room smelled of cold metal and old beer, the hum of the refrigerator steady behind her like it didn't care what was happening. Why? She snapped. Why do you need anything about my kid? Brick's voice came through the door, tight. Prez, cruiser outside, Deputy Walsh. The president didn't even blink. His gaze stayed on Hannah, calm but cutting. Because that name inside my ring isn't a coincidence, he said. Birthday, now. Hannah hated the way he said my ring, like the metal wasn't the only thing he owned. She pictured Noah asleep across the hall, thumb in his mouth, trusting the world because he didn't know any better. September 17th, she said, barely audible. 2020. Something shifted in the president's face, not relief, not anger. Recognition, like a lock in his chest, had just clicked open. He turned the ring once more, staring at the inner band, then reached behind a shelf and pulled out a thin plastic sleeve. Paper inside, creased and old. He didn't hand it to her, but she saw enough. a faded hospital wristband. Noah Carter. Hannah's stomach dropped. Where did you get that? The president slid it back like it burned him. Answer my next question, he said. Who's his father? No one, Hannah shot back. Not on paper, Brick muttered. That's not an answer. Hannah's eyes flashed. It's the only one you're getting. A fist hammered the metal door. Sheriff's office, a man barked. Deputy Walsh, open up. Brick looked to the president, waiting. The president stepped in close to the door, voice level. What do you want, deputy? A pause, then Walsh, amused. Got a report of stolen property being brought inside. A ring, silver, skull on top, heavy. Sound familiar? Hannah's blood ran cold. Someone had watched her. The president kept his voice steady. No stolen property here. Walsh's smile sharpened in his words. Then you won't mind me coming in and taking a look. I'd also like to speak with the woman who picked it up. Hannah Carter. Hannah's throat sealed. Brick whispered, furious. He's got her name. Walsh kept going, too smooth. Single mom, lives on Bayless, works nights. Kid named Noah. You know, I'm impressed she did the right thing and brought it to you instead of the pawn shop. Hannah's hands started shaking so badly she clenched them into fists. The rain, the empty lot, the ring in her pocket. She'd felt alone the whole time. Now it hit her like a slap. Someone had been there, watching, waiting for her to make the choice they wanted. Jace's eyes flicked to her for the first time since Walsh said her name. What do you drive? He asked. My car? Hannah blinked, thrown. A gray Saturn, dented fender. Jace nodded once. Brick, Ryder, move her car, now. Brick cracked the door enough to bark the order down the hall. Hannah heard boots thudding, quick and heavy, then the sound of the bar shifting, chairs scraping, voices dropping, the jukebox cutting off mid-song like someone killed it with a knife. Walsh heard it too. Locking up? He called, mock polite. That's cute. Open the door. Jace leaned closer to the seam. If you don't have a warrant, you're not stepping inside my bar. I don't need a warrant to ask questions, Walsh said, and I don't need a warrant for a welfare check. Hannah lurched forward before she could stop herself. Don't. Brick caught her arm and pulled her back. Quiet. Walsh heard her anyway. Hi, Hannah, he called, loud enough to carry through the door. Come on out. Tell me where you found it. Easy night. Easy night. Like her life was something he could fold up and put away. Jace turned his head just enough for Hannah to see his eyes. How many people know your address? He asked, quiet. My landlord, my job, the school. Mrs. Delgado, Hannah whispered. That's it. Jace nodded once. Then Walsh didn't guess. Someone handed him your file. Another slam on the door. Open it, Jace. So his name was Jace. He didn't answer the banging. He asked Hannah, do you know him, personally? No, she said, but the word felt weak. I've seen him around, at the diner. He comes in late, orders coffee like he owns the place. Brick's mouth twisted. He does own the place, he just lets people borrow it. Walsh's voice turned syrup sweet. You know what I like about single moms? Routines, same store, same street, same babysitter, makes it easy. Hannah felt the words like hands on her throat. Jace leaned in. Threatening a kid to get what you want, he said. That's a line. Walsh's tone flattened. You don't get to tell me where lines are. Last chance. Brick's phone buzzed. He checked it and showed Jace the screen. Riot. Miller's cameras cover the lot. I'm on it. Stall Walsh. Jace didn't react outwardly, but his grip on the ring tightened. Hannah's voice cracked. Just give it to him. Let me go. I didn't ask for this. Jace stared at her like she'd offered herself up to a knife. If I hand him the ring, he gets to write the story, he said, and you're already in it. A shuffle of footsteps on the other side of the door. Another voice, younger, uncertain. Deputy? You sure about this? Walsh snapped. Shut up and stand there. Hannah's skin prickled, 2 of them, at least, and Walsh still sounded relaxed. Jace lowered his voice to Hannah again. Listen to me. If you walk out that door, he owns you. He owns whatever he says you did tonight. What could he say? Hannah whispered. I returned a ring. Jace's eyes held hers. He can say you stole it. He can say you were paid to bring it here. He can say your kid is in danger because of you. And people will believe it because you're alone. That last word hit hardest. Hannah swallowed hard. Then what am I supposed to do? Jace took a breath like he didn't want to say the next part. Trust me enough to disappear for 5 minutes. No, Hannah said automatically. I'm not. Walsh's voice cut in again, casual and cruel. Unit 2, he called, clear and official. Swing to Bayless. Welfare check on a minor. Noah Carter, 5 years old. Hannah made a sound she didn't mean to make. Half breath, half sob. Brick swore under his breath. He's sending someone. Jace's face went perfectly still. Not fear, not panic, decision. He turned to Hannah. Phone, keys. She clutched her pocket. No, not to take, Jace said. To keep Walsh from calling your phone and tracking it, to keep him from grabbing your keys and taking your car as evidence the second he gets hands on you. Brick's voice softened by a fraction. If he gets your phone, he gets your whole life. Hannah's fingers trembled as she handed them over. It felt like giving up the last tiny control she had left. Jace yanked open the freezer door. Cold air spilled out. He reached past hanging plastic-wrapped meat and popped a panel in the back that shouldn't have been there. A crawl, he said. Dry. Quiet. You wait until I say move. Hannah stared at the dark gap. You want me to hide? You want Walsh to touch you? Brick asked. That decided it. Brick ducked in first, shoulders scraping, then held out a hand. Hannah slid into the narrow space, breath catching as the panel shut, cutting the room into darkness and muffled sound. She could still hear everything, just dulled, like she was underwater. Outside the panel, Jace's voice rose, meant for the whole bar. Deputy, you're not coming in. Walsh answered closer, footsteps shifting. That ring isn't yours, Jace. Jace didn't miss the slip. Then whose is it? A beat. Walsh said, Evidence. Hannah pressed her knuckles to her mouth to keep from making noise. Brick crouched beside her in the dark, a broad shadow. Minutes stretched. Voices outside moved. Walsh talking, Jace refusing, the younger deputy murmuring something Hannah couldn't catch. Then, boots hit the back alley door, fast. A knock, 3 sharp taps. Jace's voice low now, close to the freezer. Ryder? Yeah, a voice whispered back. Found something. Metal scraped. Something small clinked on the floor. Ryder spoke quick, tight. There was a magnet GPS under her rear bumper, fresh, still warm from the battery. Hannah's stomach flipped. Her car, her routine, the one place she thought was just hers. Jace didn't swear. He didn't even sound surprised. That's how he knew, he said quietly. Ryder added, We pulled it, but Prez, there's another one, under the front frame. Whoever did it wanted a backup. Walsh's voice cut through the bar again, louder, impatient. Open the damn door! Jace's voice didn't rise. You're not coming in, Ryder whispered, urgent. And there's a second set of tire tracks behind the building, not the cruiser. Someone's been sitting back here. Hannah's breath stopped. Outside the hidden panel, Jace said one word, and it sounded like the first crack of thunder. Move. Then, through the narrow gap at the bottom of the panel, she heard an engine settle into a low, idle rain ticking on a hood. Headlights swept across the floor, turning, stopping, and staying, like a vehicle had just parked tight behind the building. Move, Jace said. In the crawl behind the freezer, Hannah's whole body went cold. The idling engine outside wasn't a cruiser. No siren chirp, no radio, just a low, patient purr like something sitting in the rain with its lights off, waiting for her to surface. Brick eased the panel open. A thin wedge of light cut in, and Hannah crawled out on scraped palms, blinking hard. The bar noise had dropped to a careful hush, the kind that meant men were listening for the wrong footstep. Walsh banged at the front again, his voice sliding through the walls. Jace, you gonna make me kick this door? Jace didn't answer him. He looked at Hannah like he could read the panic on her skin. Phone, keys. Hannah hesitated. Airplane mode, Jace said. If he pings you, he pings your kid. Don't argue. Her fingers trembled as she handed them over. Jace flicked her screen dark, then passed everything back. Keep it off. Brick leaned in, scar pale in the light. Hood up, eyes down. Ryder appeared in the doorway, rain dripping from his hair. Black Tahoe in the alley. No markings. Somebody's been parked back there a while. Hannah's stomach dropped. They followed me. Yeah, Brick said, and they want you alive. Jace's jaw tightened. Walsh sent a unit to Bayless. Hannah's chest seized. Noah. I know, Jace cut in. Riot's already moving. You're going now. Brick shoved a heavy black hoodie into her hands. It smelled like smoke and laundry soap. Hannah pulled it on, hiding her hair, trying to disappear inside fabric that wasn't hers. Jace pointed to the floor-to-ceiling shelves. Old tunnel. Back when this place wasn't a bar, it comes out behind the warehouses, not the main alley. Brick grabbed a keyring from Jace and popped open a low hatch behind stacked soda boxes. Damp air rose from below. Hannah stared into the dark. Brick didn't touch her, but his voice left no room. Down, she climbed. Concrete pipes, water dripping, 3 bodies moving single file. Brick first, Hannah second, Ryder behind. The tunnel narrowed in places, forcing Hannah to turn sideways with her shoulder scraping the wall. The rain became a distant drum overhead. At the far end, Brick stopped at a metal grate. He pressed his ear to it, listened, then pushed it open inch by inch. They slipped out into a narrow lane behind warehouses and dumpsters. Rain slapped metal lids. The world smelled like wet cardboard and diesel. Across the main alley, the Tahoe sat angled like a barricade, headlights off, engine idling. Dark glass, no silhouette, just presence. Ryder crouched, squinting. Still can't see who's inside. A side door to the nearest warehouse squealed open. A hooded man stepped out, cigarette glowing. He didn't look around like someone taking a smoke break. He looked straight at the dumpsters, straight at them. Evening, he called softly, almost polite. Deputy wants a word, that's all. Brick's hand closed on Hannah's wrist, steadying her. Not one of ours, Ryder whispered. The hooded man took another step, lifting his free hand like he was calming a dog. No need to run, ma'am. Just come talk. We can do this easy. Hannah felt her throat tighten. He knows where we are. Yeah, Brick said, eyes flat. He does. Ryder's phone buzzed once. He checked it and turned the screen toward Brick. Riot. Cruiser just turned onto Bayless. 2 minutes. Hannah made a broken sound. Please. Brick leaned close to her ear. You want to see your kid? You move when I move. The hooded man flicked ash, smiling like he'd already won. Last chance. Brick's hand vanished into his jacket and came out with a small can. He shook it once, quick. The hiss was loud in the rain, spray blasting a gray cloud right into the man's face. The hooded man yelled, stumbling back, hands clawing at his eyes. Brick yanked Hannah and ran, not toward the alley. Across the lane, through stacked pallets, around a row of dumpsters that blocked the Tahoe's line of sight. A chain-link gate swung inward as Brick hit it with his shoulder. A plain brown van waited on the other side, engine running. Get in, Ryder snapped. Hannah scrambled into the passenger seat. Brick dove into the back and slammed the door. Ryder followed, breath hard. The driver, thick beard, calm eyes, threw the van into gear. Tires spun, then caught, launching them onto the side street. Headlights flared behind them. They're moving, Ryder barked, looking out the rear window. The Tahoe slid into the lane, engine rising, keeping distance like it wasn't in a hurry, like it had all night. Cutter cut the headlights and drove by memory, hugging the dark edges of storefronts and parked cars. Twice he took turns so sharp Hannah's shoulder slammed the door. Brick braced in the back, a hand on the seat to keep her from snapping forward. They just want eyes, Brick muttered. They're not trying to ram, they're guiding. Guiding us where? Hannah choked out. Ryder's phone buzzed again. A single line from Jace. Walsh, still front. He's buying time. Move fast. Cutter glanced in the mirror. Tahoe's got a buddy. Hannah twisted, peering through rain-streaked glass. Far back, another set of headlights appeared. Smaller, lower. An unmarked sedan. It didn't rush. It settled behind the Tahoe like this was rehearsed. Hannah's grip tightened on the dash. If they take Noah, they won't, Brick said. It sounded like a vow he was willing to bleed for. Not while we're standing. The van cut through 2 turns without headlights, then rolled onto Bayless. Hannah's building appeared through the rain, peeling paint, flickering porch light, Mrs. Delgado's plant stand by the steps, and a cruiser at the curb, engine running, lights off, another dark sedan behind it, windows black. Riot stood down the block beside his bike, half hidden in shadow. He moved the moment the van slowed, appearing at Hannah's door like he'd been summoned. Mrs. Delgado didn't open, he whispered, but Walsh's partner's on the stairs, waiting. Hannah's pulse hammered. Where's the unit that turned onto Bayless? Riot's eyes flicked toward the cruiser. That's it? And that sedan, not county? Brick slid out behind her, rain bouncing off his shoulders. Go. They moved along the side entrance, keeping tight to the wall. Riot took point, Brick behind Hannah, Ryder hanging back by the van, scanning the street. Halfway to the side steps, the young deputy under the awning shifted, like he'd heard a whisper. He stepped off the stairs, flashlight in hand, scanning the lot. Hannah froze. Riot didn't. He straightened, tossed his shoulders like a tired tenant, and walked right into the deputy's path. "Hey," Riot called, loud enough to be normal. "You the one waking everybody up? My cousin lives here." The deputy blinked, confused by the casual tone. "Sheriff's office. Step back." Riot lifted both hands, empty. "I'm stepping back. Just asking what's going on." That half-second mattered. Brick pushed Hannah forward with a firm hand between her shoulder blades. They slipped up the side steps and into the hallway before the deputy's flashlight swung their way. Mrs. Delgado's door cracked before Hannah knocked. The older woman's face was chalk white. "Hannah," she whispered, "he's right there." "I know," Hannah breathed. "Noah?" Mrs. Delgado pulled the door wider. Noah stood in rain boots and an oversized jacket, clutching a paper dinosaur. The moment he saw Hannah, his whole face lit up. "Mom!" he squealed, launching himself into her. Hannah dropped to her knees and crushed him to her chest. For 1 second, the world shrank to his warm weight and the soft smell of his hair. "Why you wet?" Noah asked, pulling back confused. "Storm got me," Hannah said, forcing a smile that hurt. "We're going for a ride, okay?" "Where?" "Somewhere safe." Mrs. Delgado pressed a small backpack into Hannah's shoulder. Snacks, a change of clothes, a stuffed rabbit. "I packed fast," she whispered. "I'm sorry." "You're a saint," Hannah said, voice cracking. A hard knock hit the door, then Walsh's voice right outside, too close. "Ma'am, open up. Sheriff's office." Noah's arms tightened around Hannah's neck. "Mom?" Brick stepped forward, becoming a wall between them and the door. Riot slipped in behind them, breathing hard, eyes sharp. "He saw me," Riot whispered. "He's calling Walsh." Riot's hand went to the kitchen window latch. Back window, now. Hannah lifted Noah. He clung to her, trusting. She moved toward the kitchen, boots slipping on linoleum, heart punching at her ribs. Brick called through the door, steady. "She's sleeping. Come back tomorrow." Walsh laughed once. "No, she isn't. I can hear your breathing." Riot shoved the kitchen window up. Rain blasted in. The drop to the ground was short, but with Noah in her arms, it felt like a cliff. "Feet first," Riot said. "I've got you." Hannah swung one leg out. The front door exploded inward. Wood splintered. The chain snapped with a scream of metal. Noah jerked against Hannah's shoulder, a scared, ragged, razor-sharp gasp in her ear. A flashlight beam knifed across the living room, and Walsh's voice filled the apartment, close, triumphant, furious, all at once. "Found you!" Walsh hit the apartment like he'd been invited. His flashlight beam cut across the living room, bright and searching, and the rain he carried in glittered on his shoulders. Behind him, the younger deputy hovered in the doorway, jaw tight, eyes darting between Brick and Mrs. Delgado as if he'd never seen a door kicked in before and didn't know what to do with the fact that his badge was attached to it. "Step away from the window," Walsh ordered, voice sharp now that he'd found his audience. Hannah had one leg out the kitchen window and Noah welded to her, his little fingers digging into her hoodie like he could anchor himself to her ribs. Riot was braced beneath the sill outside, arms ready, rain dripping off his nose. Brick stood in the living room like a wall, not yelling, not threatening, just blocking. "This is a residence," Brick said, steady. "You don't have consent." Walsh's grin showed teeth. "I have a minor inside and a report of stolen property connected to your clubhouse." Of Noah's face. Noah gasped and pressed of Noah's face. Noah gasped and pressed his cheek into Hannah's shoulder. "Mom." "It's okay," Hannah whispered, even though her heart was trying to tear itself out. "Hold tight. Don't look." Walsh raised his voice, loud enough to make sure everyone heard the authority in it. "Hannah Carter, come out of there with your child, now." Mrs. Delgado made a small, broken sound in the corner. Her hands shook, one still clutching a rosary. Walsh glanced at her like she was furniture. Riot hissed from outside, barely audible through the rain. "Now, Hannah, feet." Hannah swallowed hard and slid her other leg out. The window frame bit her thigh through wet denim. For a second, her balance wobbled, and fear flashed hot and stupid. She pictured dropping Noah. Riot's hands caught her shin. "I got you," he whispered. "Just drop." Behind them, Walsh moved again. He tried to step past Brick. Brick didn't touch him. He just shifted, shoulder to shoulder, blocking like a door that wouldn't open. Walsh stopped. The air sharpened. "You're interfering with an investigation," Walsh said quietly. "You're breaking into homes," Brick answered, just as quiet. Walsh's eyes flicked, calculating. Then, without warning, he lunged, fast, trying to swing around Brick and get into the kitchen. Brick reacted the same way. One step. A hard shove to the side that redirected Walsh's momentum into the wall. Walsh slammed shoulder first into plaster. The flashlight clattered to the floor, spinning light across the ceiling like a strobe. The younger deputy flinched. "Deputy!" Walsh's hand snapped out and grabbed Brick's jacket, yanking him in. "You lay a hand on me," Walsh growled, "and I'll bury you with the rest of your trash." Brick didn't flinch. "You already tried to bury me," he said, and there was something in that line, old, personal, that made Walsh's face twitch. Hannah didn't have time to decode it. "Drop!" Riot snapped. She let go of the sill. The fall was short but brutal with Noah in her arms. Her boots hit mud. Her knees buckled. Pain shot up her legs, but Riot was there, one arm under Noah, one hand gripping Hannah's elbow. "Noah!" Hannah gasped, checking him with frantic fingers. Noah's eyes were wide, tears clinging to his lashes, but he was breathing, whole. He nodded hard. "I'm okay." "Good," Riot said. "Run." They took 3 steps before Walsh appeared at the kitchen window, face framed in broken rainlight, pistol drawn but pointed down, professional enough to look legal, cruel enough to make her blood freeze. "Stop," he barked. "Hannah, stop right now." Hannah didn't stop. She ran. Riot guided her along the side of the building, keeping Noah between them, shielding him with his body. The mud sucked at her boots. Rain slapped her face. The world narrowed to breath and footsteps and the pounding in her ears. From the window, Walsh shouted again, into his radio this time. "She's running. Backlot. Cut them off." Then the younger deputy's voice strained. "Walsh, she has the kid." "Then she should have opened the door," Walsh snapped. A car door slammed out front. Tires crunched on gravel. They were already boxed in. Riot veered toward the narrow gap between Hannah's building and the next one, where the trash bins sat like a maze. He shoved one lid up with his shoulder and pulled it down behind them like a shield. "Keep moving," he said. "Don't look back." Hannah clutched Noah tighter. He shook against her, wet and warm, little breath hiccuping. "Mom, why is the police mad?" Because he's wrong," she whispered, forcing the words through teeth that wanted to chatter. "And we're leaving." They burst out the back onto the alley, and the plain brown van was there, engine running, headlights off. Cutter leaned across the wheel, calm as a man in church. In. Hannah practically threw herself into the passenger seat with Noah. Riot slammed the door and sprinted around the back, jumping in as Brick and Ryder appeared from nowhere, cutting through the rain like they'd been waiting in the shadows. Brick dove into the van, soaked, breathing hard. Ryder followed, eyes flicking everywhere. Cutter threw the van into gear. The moment they rolled, headlights flared behind them, Walsh's cruiser swinging into the alley like a predator that finally got a scent. His siren chirped once, short and taunting. Not an emergency, a signal. "Hold on," Cutter said. The van fishtailed in mud, then caught and surged forward. Hannah's shoulder slammed the door. Noah cried out, but she trapped him against her, whispering, "I've got you, I've got you." Behind them, Walsh didn't rush to ram. He stayed close enough to own the road, far enough to look reasonable. Ryder twisted, peering through the back window. "He's pacing us." "Because he wants us where he wants us," Brick said. "Where?" Hannah demanded, voice cracking. "Where does he want us?" Brick didn't answer her directly. His gaze was fixed on Noah. "Where did you find the ring, Hannah?" he asked instead, blunt. "Miller's," she snapped. "I told you, parking lot by the cart corral." "No," Brick said. "Before the corral. After. Which side? Which light?" Hannah blinked, thrown by the precision. Her mind flicked back. Rain, puddles, the streetlight making everything a smear. "Near the far light pole," she said. "Closest to the road. It was like it had been placed where someone would step." Ryder's jaw clenched. "That's what Riot said. It wasn't dropped. It was staged." Noah sniffed. "Ring?" Hannah froze. "You know about a ring." Noah wiped his face with his sleeve. "Shiny ring," he whispered, "like pirate." Hannah's stomach tightened. "Noah, did you see it?" Noah shook his head hard. No. But I had ring before. Everything inside Hannah went still. What do you mean you had a ring before? She asked, careful, like one wrong syllable might break him. Noah's lip trembled. Man gave it. Hannah's pulse went loud. What man? Noah looked at the ceiling of the van like the answer was written there. Big man, he said. Smelled like smoke. Brick's eyes flicked to Ryder. Ryder's face went tight, like he'd been punched. Hannah's throat closed. When, Noah? When did someone give you a ring? Noah's small brows pinched. At park, he said, when you work. I was with Miss Dell. No, Hannah snapped, panic sharp. Mrs. Delgado doesn't take you to the park at night. Noah nodded, confused. Not night, day, sun. Hannah's hands started shaking. She looked at Brick. What is this? Who? Brick spoke over her voice low and dangerous. Cutter, next right, lose the main. Cutter took the turn so hard the van leaned. Hannah's breath punched out of her lungs. Walsh's cruiser followed smoothly, too smoothly, like he already knew the route. Then another set of headlights appeared in the mirror, joining behind Walsh. Ryder swore. Sedan's still with him. Two vehicles, coordinated. Cutter ran a red light without slowing. The world blurred past storefronts and wet streets. Hannah saw people inside a diner turn their heads at the engine noise, unaware their town had just become a hunting ground. Then, the van cut behind an abandoned furniture store and rolled into a service lane lined with storage units. Cutter killed the headlights and coasted, engine low. Walsh's cruiser passed the entrance without turning. For a breath, it worked. Hannah's whole body sagged, relief hitting her like weakness. Then the cruiser's brake lights flared at the far end of the lane. It stopped. It began to reverse. Damn it, Ryder muttered. He never lost us. Brick leaned forward, eyes flat. He's not tracking the van, he's tracking her. Hannah's skin went ice. The GPS on your car, Ryder said, and if we pulled both, then it's something else. Hannah clutched Noah tighter. My phone is off, she said, desperate. I did what Jace said. Brick's gaze dropped to Noah's backpack, then to the stuffed rabbit peeking out of it, pink ears soaked, stitched smile crooked. Give me that, Brick said. Hannah hugged it reflexively. Don't, he needs… Brick didn't yank. He just held out his hand and waited, eyes on Hannah, not Noah. Hannah's throat tightened. She pulled the rabbit out and handed it over, because something in Brick's calm scared her more than force. Brick turned the rabbit in his hands, squeezed it once, twice. A faint wrong hardness clicked under the stuffing. Brick's jaw set. He dug 2 fingers into the seam along the rabbit's back and tore it open with one sharp pull. Foam spilled out, and something small and black dropped into his palm, no bigger than a coin, with a tiny blinking light. Hannah stared at it, her mind refusing to accept what her eyes were seeing. Ryder inhaled through his teeth. Tracker. Noah looked up, confused. Bunny hurt. Hannah's knees went weak. The rain, the ring. Walsh, knowing her name. The cruiser at her building, the Tahoe behind the bar. Someone had put a tracker in her child's toy. Brick closed his fist around the device like he wanted to crush it to dust. Then, from the lane entrance, headlights flared back on, bright and close. Walsh's cruiser rolled into the service lane, slow as a promise. And over the rain, through the van's thin walls, Hannah heard his voice from a loudspeaker, calm, amused, right on top of them. Hannah, Walsh said, you really should stop running. Walsh's cruiser crawled into the service lane like it owned the asphalt. Rain sheeted over the hood, making the headlights look smeared and unreal. The loudspeaker crackled again, and his voice came out warm and easy, like this was a joke between friends. Hannah, he said, you really should stop running. Inside the van, nobody spoke for a half-second. Even Noah went quiet, breath hitching against Hannah's neck. Hannah stared straight ahead, gripping him so tightly her forearms burned. Cutter didn't look back. His hands were steady on the wheel. Unit 14, he said under his breath. Ryder snapped his head around. You sure it's clear? Cutter's eyes flicked to the row of storage doors, metal rectangles with numbers stenciled in fading paint. It better be. Brick leaned forward from the back, fist still closed around the tiny black tracker. The little light blinked against his knuckles like a heartbeat that didn't belong to them. Walsh's siren chirped again, one short burst, almost playful. Out of the vehicle, Walsh called. Let's do this the easy way. Hannah's throat tightened. She wanted to scream at him that he'd kicked down a door in front of her child, that he'd hidden a tracker in a stuffed rabbit, that easy wasn't a word he deserved in his mouth. But she couldn't give him anything, not her voice, not her fear. Cutter rolled the van forward, slow, like he was complying. The cruiser inched closer, angling to block. Walsh was trying to herd them to the center of the lane where there were no blind spots. "Now," Cutter said. He slammed the wheel left. The van jerked hard, tires spitting water, and shot toward the storage row instead of stopping. Hannah's shoulder slammed the door. Noah yelped. Brick caught the back of Hannah's seat to keep her from snapping forward. Walsh's cruiser surged after them. Cutter didn't head for the lane exit. He headed straight at a closed storage door like he'd lost his mind. Ryder lunged across the aisle and slapped a remote button on his key fob. A roll-up door halfway down the row, Unit 14, jumped, then rattled upward. Inside was darkness. Cutter didn't hesitate. He drove right into it. The van swallowed the dark like a mouth. The roll-up door started coming down behind them the second the rear bumper cleared. Hannah's heart hammered in her ears. The van's headlights lit a cramped concrete box packed with junk, tires stacked high, a workbench, a tarp-covered motorcycle, shelves of oil and rags. The air smelled like old rubber and gasoline. The door hit the floor with a metallic slam. For 2 breaths, the rain went muffled. The world became the hum of the van's engine and Noah's frightened little sniffles. Hannah realized she was holding her breath and forced air into her lungs. "What?" she began. Brick was already moving. "Switch," he said. Ryder yanked open the van's side door. Brick jumped out into the storage unit and went straight to the tarp. He ripped it back. Underneath wasn't a motorcycle. It was a battered dark SUV with mud-caked tires and no plates. Cutter killed the van engine and popped his door. 30 seconds, he said, voice flat. Maybe less. Outside, through the thin metal walls, Hannah heard Walsh's cruiser stop. She heard the crunch of boots on wet gravel, a radio squawk. Walsh's voice, closer now, not through the speaker. "I know you're in here." Ryder grabbed Noah's backpack and shoved it into Hannah's arms. "Move," he whispered. Hannah climbed out with Noah clinging to her hoodie, face buried. Her legs felt weak, but adrenaline kept her upright. Brick was already opening the SUV's rear door. "Back seat," Brick said. "Center." Hannah slid in and hauled Noah onto her lap. The SUV smelled like stale smoke and leather. Noah's eyes were huge, tracking every sound. "Mom," he whispered, "are we bad?" "No," Hannah said, voice shaking. "No, baby, we're not bad." Brick leaned in close, eyes hard but not cruel. "No noise. No crying," he told Noah, not like a threat, like a plea. "Just breathe." Noah swallowed hard and nodded. Ryder climbed into the front passenger seat. Cutter took the driver's seat of the SUV without a word and twisted the key. The engine turned over once, then caught low. Walsh's bootsteps moved along the row outside. He was walking, listening, hunting by sound. Hannah's stomach twisted. If he heard this engine, Brick lifted the tracker in his fist. Hannah's eyes locked on it. The blinking light looked obscene in the dim. "What are you doing?" she mouthed. Brick opened the van's side door again, slid back inside for 1 second, and shoved the tracker deep under the driver's seat, wedged where it couldn't be seen without crawling. Then he stepped out and shut the van door with care. Ryder whispered, "Leave it alive?" Brick's jaw flexed. "Let it talk." Cutter didn't turn. "Back gate," he murmured. "Hang on." The storage unit's back wall wasn't a wall. It was another roll-up door facing a narrow service lane that ran behind the units, hidden from the main entrance. Ryder hit a second remote. The back door rattled upward. Cold air and rain smell rushed in. Cutter eased the SUV forward, tires crunching over gravel. Hannah held Noah so tightly she could feel his heartbeat against her own. They rolled out the back and into the narrow lane, and then Cutter accelerated. The SUV shot down the service lane, dark and fast, its taillights muted by rain and distance. Within seconds, Unit 14 was behind them. Back at the storage row, Walsh wouldn't see anything but a closed door and silence. He'd do what he always did, force the world to open for him. Hannah's breath shook out of her in short bursts. She couldn't stop imagining him yanking up doors one by one, flashlight cutting through metal boxes, finding the van, finding the tracker blinking like a beacon, finding nothing else. Cutter took 2 sharp turns through industrial backstreets and killed the SUV's headlights. They moved by the glow of distant street lamps and the reflection off wet pavement. Noah finally lifted his face from Hannah's shoulder. "I'm scared," he whispered, small and honest. Hannah kissed his hair, rain-soaked and warm. "I know." "I'm right here." Brick's voice came from the front, low. "We're almost there." "Where is there?" Hannah demanded, the anger finally punching through her fear. "And don't tell me to trust you. You haven't told me anything." Brick turned just enough that she saw his profile in the dark. "You want answers?" he said. "You'll get them, not on a road with Walsh behind us." "You're acting like this is normal," Hannah hissed, "like it happens every day." "It doesn't," Ryder said without turning. "That's why it matters." Cutter slowed at a broken chain-link gate and rolled through into a yard stacked with rusted equipment. A long, low building squatted at the far end, old office, boarded windows, one light on inside. He drove the SUV into the shadow of the building, engine low, then killed it. Silence rushed in. For a second, Hannah didn't move. Her muscles were locked in a protective knot, ready to run again. Then the quiet seeped into her bones and made her realize how badly she was shaking. Brick got out first and scanned the yard. Ryder did the same, moving with quick, practiced caution. Cutter stayed by the SUV, watching the gate. "Inside," Brick said. Hannah climbed out with Noah in her arms. Her legs wobbled as soon as her feet hit gravel. Noah clung to her, arms around her neck like a lifeline. They hurried into the building. Inside, it was warmer than Hannah expected. One room had been set up, folding table, two mismatched couches, a space heater humming, a kettle on a hot plate. It wasn't home, but it was controlled. There were no windows to be seen, no street noise. Jace was there. He stood near the table, jacket off, sleeves rolled, phone in hand. When he saw Noah, something in his face tightened so fast, Hannah almost missed it. Not a smile, not softness, something older. He looked at Hannah like he'd been holding his breath since she left the rusty anchor. "You made it." "Barely," Hannah snapped. "Your deputy friend kicked my door in." "In front of my son." Jace's eyes flicked to Brick. Brick gave a single nod. Tracker in the Rabbit, GPS on her car, Tahoe in the alley, Walsh's unit at Bayless. Jace's jaw worked. He put a tracker in a child's toy. Noah, exhausted now that the running stopped, rubbed his eyes. "Can I sleep?" Hannah's throat tightened. "Yes, baby, of course." Jace motioned toward a back room. "There's a cot, blankets, quiet." Hannah carried Noah down the short hall. The back room was small and clean, just a cot and a lamp. She laid Noah down, pulled the blanket up, and watched his eyelids fight to stay open. "Mom," he whispered. "No police?" Hannah forced a smile that felt like it might split her face. "Not here." Noah nodded once, trusting her because that's what children do, and his eyes finally slid shut. Hannah stood there for a beat longer than she meant to, listening to his breathing even out. When she walked back into the main room, her fear had sharpened into something else. She stopped in front of Jace. "Start talking." Jace didn't posture. He didn't pretend she was overreacting. He just set his phone down and looked at her straight. "That ring you brought in," he began. "It had my son's name in it," Hannah cut in. "You acted like you'd seen a ghost." Jace's eyes flicked, a small tell. "Because I did." Hannah's hands curled into fists. "Then explain it." Before Jace could answer, Ryder's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen, then looked up, face tight. "Walsh is back at her building," Ryder said. Hannah's stomach flipped. "No, Mrs. Delgado." Jace was already moving, grabbing his own phone. "On speaker," he said. Ryder hit the button and held it out. A woman's voice came through, shaking and thin. "Hannah? Mrs. Delgado?" Hannah lunged for the phone. "Are you okay? Where's—" A second voice slid in over hers, calm and amused, close enough to the mic that Hannah could hear the wet breath. "Evening, Hannah," Walsh said softly. "Your neighbor's fine." "She's just cooperative now." Hannah froze so hard it hurt. Walsh continued, almost gentle. "You left behind a little backpack. That's careless. Makes it look like you ran in a hurry." Hannah's mouth went dry. "Leave her alone." "Oh, I will," Walsh said. "As soon as she tells me why there was a tracker in that rabbit." Hannah's blood turned to ice. Mrs. Delgado made a strangled sound, half sob. "I'm sorry," she whispered. He said they'd take Noah if I didn't know it would be like this." Hannah stared at the phone like it had just become a weapon, and Walsh's voice, still smooth, still smiling, finished the thought for her. "Now," he said, "let's talk about that ring." Hannah snatched Ryder's phone with both hands like she could squeeze Walsh out of it. "Deputy," she said, voice shaking, "leave her alone. She doesn't know anything." Walsh laughed softly, the sound slick with rain and control. "Hannah, don't do that. Don't try to turn this into a morality play. You brought stolen property to a criminal organization. You ran from a lawful welfare check. Now your sweet neighbor is sitting on a couch answering questions. That's all." In the background, Mrs. Delgado made a faint whimper, like she was trying to apologize without words. Hannah's throat burned. "I returned a ring I found in a puddle. That's it." "Oh, I know." Walsh's tone stayed gentle. "That's why I like you. You did what you thought was right. You're predictable." Jace stepped close, palm out, not a demand, an instruction. Hannah hesitated, then put the phone on speaker and set it on the table so everyone could hear. Brick's arms folded, Ryder's gaze locked on the device like he wanted to crush it. Cutter stood by the door, still, listening to the yard outside like he could hear a cruiser 3 blocks away. Jace spoke into the open air. "Deputy Walsh, this is private property. You're harassing a civilian." Walsh's voice didn't change. "Jace, good. Saves me time." Hannah's skin prickled. Walsh was smiling on the other end. She could hear it. Walsh continued, almost conversational. "Here's what's going to happen. Hannah is going to bring the ring to me, in person. She's going to explain where she found it. Then she goes home, and Mrs. Delgado goes back to bed, and everybody stops pretending this is bigger than it is." Hannah stared at Jace. "No," she mouthed. Jace didn't look at her. He said, "You kicked in a door and threatened a child." Walsh sighed, like he was tired of being misunderstood. "You and I both know I can write this up a dozen ways. Suspected abduction attempt. Child endangerment. Gang intimidation of a witness. You want me to put those words on paper, Jace? You want your boys cuffed in front of the whole town?" Brick leaned forward, voice low. "You already decided your story." Walsh ignored him. Hannah," he said softly, and the way he said her name made her stomach turn. "You've got 20 minutes to make a smart choice." Hannah's hands clenched. "If I come, you let Mrs. Delgado go?" A beat. Walsh said, "You come alone. You bring the ring. You bring your kid's birth certificate." Hannah's breath caught. "Why?" "Because I'm tired of guessing who Noah Carter really is," Walsh replied, and now the gentleness slipped, just enough to show the blade. "And I'm tired of this town pretending it doesn't know what kind of men you just ran into." Jace's eyes went cold. "You don't need her birth certificate." "I do if I'm about to place a minor into protective custody," Walsh said, too calm. "Maybe with a nice foster family in Baton Rouge, somewhere far from biker bars and poor decisions." Hannah felt the room tilt. Her mouth went numb. Jace's voice stayed level. "You send that kid out of this town and you won't like what comes after." Walsh chuckled. "There it is. Threats. Beautiful. Keep talking like that while I record you." Ryder's head snapped up. He mouthed, "Recording?" Jace didn't react. "Where?" he asked. "Under the North Rail Bridge," Walsh said. "The one by the scrapyard. No cameras, no curious citizens. You'll like it. Quiet." Hannah's lungs tightened. No cameras. Quiet. A place where Walsh could do anything and call it lawful. "And Hannah," Walsh added, voice dropping, "bring the stuffed rabbit." Hannah's eyes darted to Brick. Brick's fist tightened on the tracker like he wanted to grind it into powder. "There is no rabbit," Jace said. Walsh laughed again, warmer this time. "Sure there isn't. That's why it's sitting on the kitchen floor of your friend's apartment, cut open like somebody panicked. That's why my guys are taking pictures of it right now." Hannah's face drained. He was already building his evidence. Walsh's voice turned almost kind. 20 minutes. If you're late, Mrs. Delgado goes downtown. If you don't show, I'm filing an emergency order for Noah. And while you're looking for lawyers you can't afford, I'll be picking your apartment apart." Hannah's voice cracked. "Stop." Walsh sighed like she'd disappointed him. "Don't make this ugly, Hannah. You're not built for ugly." Then the line clicked dead. For a second, nobody moved. The room held the silence like a bruise. Hannah stared at the phone until her vision blurred. Then she looked at Jace. "He wants to take my son. Jace's jaw flexed once. He wants you to hand him the ring and walk into a place he controls. Then we go to the police, Hannah snapped, desperate for something normal to hold on to. Internal affairs, state, someone. Brick's laugh was short and humorless. And who do you think Walsh calls when you do that? Ryder's voice was tight. He's already got her file. He's already got her neighbor. This isn't a bad cop thing. This is infrastructure. Hannah's hands flew out. So what? What? Hide forever? Jace stepped closer, not crowding her, just making sure she heard him. You don't go to that bridge. He'll arrest Mrs. Delgado. Jace didn't blink. We're getting her out. Hannah's eyes went wet with fury. How? He's got cars, radios, badges. Brick answered low. Badges don't stop people from making mistakes. Hannah swung back to Jace. And the ring? What the hell is my son's name doing in it? Jace's gaze flicked toward the hallway where Noah slept, like the name itself could wake him. Then, back to Hannah. I didn't put it there, he said. Hannah shook her head hard. You said it was your ring. It is, Jace replied. Or it was. Brick's eyes narrowed. Tell her. Jace exhaled through his nose, controlled. 6 months ago, Walsh pulled me over for a broken taillight. He patted me down, friendly as a priest. I didn't notice my ring was gone until the next morning. Hannah's stomach dropped again. He stole it. He took it, Jace said. And he didn't take it to pawn. He didn't take it to keep. He took it because he knew what it meant in this town. He took it because he knew he could put it anywhere and the whole county would assume the worst. Ryder's mouth tightened. A president's ring turns any room into a crime scene. Hannah stared at the table, trying to make sense of it. But the engraving, Jace's voice went quieter. That engraving wasn't there. Brick's eyes stayed on Hannah. That's why his face changed. Hannah felt a cold thread run up her spine. So Walsh had it engraved, with my kid's name. And staged it where you'd find it, Ryder said, because he knew you'd do the right thing and walk it straight into the wrong place. Hannah's lips parted, but no sound came out. It wasn't just the cruelty, it was the planning, the way her decency had been used like a handle. Jace moved to the table and pulled a legal pad toward him. He drew quick, sharp lines. Walsh wants 3 things, he said, writing as he spoke. The ring. Hannah on record admitting she brought it to the club. And Noah in a system he can control. Cutter's voice came from the door. And he wants it tonight. Brick nodded once. Because if he waits, cameras get copied, calls get recorded, and witnesses get brave. Hannah blinked. Cameras? Ryder looked at her. Miller's. Hannah's mind flashed back. Jace barking orders, Riot going for footage. Riot, as if summoned, the outer door opened and Riot stepped in dripping rain, helmet under his arm, eyes bright and hard. He didn't waste words. Got it, he said and slapped a flash drive onto the table like it was ammunition. Jace's hand stilled above the pad. You pull the footage? 2 angles, Riot said. Front lot camera and the pole camera by the road. Manager tried to play dumb until I reminded him his kid bikes past the anchor every day. Hannah's throat tightened. Show me. Riot plugged the drive into an old laptop on the folding table. The screen lit up with gray, rain-streaked night vision. Miller's parking lot, empty lanes, wet asphalt shining under a streetlight. Timestamp, 11:47 p.m. Hannah leaned in so close her breath fogged the screen. A car slid into frame, dark, slow, no headlights. It didn't park in a space. It stopped near the far light pole closest to the road. A figure stepped out, hood up, hands gloved, head down like the rain hurt. The figure walked to the cart corral and crouched. Hannah's stomach flipped. She watched the gloved hand place something small and bright at the edge of a puddle, exactly where a person pushing a cart would step. The figure adjusted it, moved it an inch, like setting bait on a hook. Then the figure stood and turned toward the road. For a half second, the hood shifted, and the streetlight caught the side of the face. Hannah's blood ran cold. Riot paused the video and zoomed. The pixels sharpened just enough, a jawline, a familiar mouth, a nose she'd seen lit by a flashlight in her own apartment. Walsh. Hannah's knees went weak. She grabbed the edge of the table to stay up. No, she whispered. No, that's... Riot clicked forward 1 frame. Walsh's hand dipped to his belt as he stood. A badge clip flashed silver at his hip. Brick made a low sound in his throat, like rage had finally found proof. Jace stared at the screen without blinking, face gone still in a way that scared Hannah more than any shout could. Ryder's voice came out flat. He planted it. Hannah swallowed, throat tight. He used my son's name to make me walk into your bar. Jace didn't look away from the frozen frame of Walsh crouched in the rain. His voice was quiet, controlled, deadly. Yeah, he said, and now he thinks he can make you walk under that bridge. For a long moment after Riot froze, the frame on Walsh crouched in the rain. Nobody moved. Hannah stared at the badge clip shining at his hip and felt her stomach drop in slow motion. This wasn't a cop following procedure. This was a man building a trap with her child's name as the bait. Jace shut the laptop. That drive stays off the grid, he said. No texts, no uploads, 2 copies, separate places. Hannah swallowed. And Mrs. Delgado? Brick's answer came fast. We pull her out, tonight, before Walsh turns her into leverage. Jace pointed at Brick and Riot. You two, go. Get her and anything he can twist into evidence. Backpack, rabbit, whatever. Riot's jaw tightened. He'll be waiting. Then don't walk in like guests, Brick said, and they were gone, vanishing into the rain like they'd never been there. The building felt smaller the second the door shut. Hannah glanced down the hall toward Noah. He was still asleep, small chest rising and falling, trusting her with a calm she didn't deserve. Ryder leaned over the folding table. The engraving wasn't there before? Jace's eyes stayed hard. No, that ring's been on my hand for years. Walsh lifted it off me on a traffic stop. I didn't notice until the next morning. Hannah's mouth went dry. So he stole it and added my son's name. And planted it where you'd pick it up, Ryder said, because you'd do the right thing. Hannah's anger flared hot. How did he even know Noah's name? Silence, heavy and honest. Cutter, posted near the door, murmured, Engine. Everyone went still. Cruiser, Hannah whispered. Cutter shook his head. Too quiet. Somebody easing in. Ryder killed the overhead light. The room dropped into dim amber from the small lamp in the back. Jace grabbed a crowbar from beside the table, not rushing, not dramatic. Hall, he whispered to Hannah. Hannah moved on reflex, sliding into the hallway and pulling the door almost shut. Her palm pressed to her mouth to keep her breathing quiet. Outside, gravel crunched, slow steps spaced out. Not a badge, a search. A faint scrape at the front door, like someone testing the handle. Then a low whistle through the crack, short, sharp. A signal. Ryder's voice barely a breath. 2. Cutter. Back fence 2. A sweet, bitter chemical stink started seeping under the door. Ryder swore. Smoke! Jace yanked a side window open. Rain air punched in, thinning the sting before it could turn into panic. The smoke crawled low, meant to make eyes water and lungs misfire. A rough voice outside, young, not Walsh's. She's in there. I saw the kid bag. The next sound was a blunt crash, wood on bone, followed by a choked grunt of surprise. Another set of footsteps sprinted away, splashing hard. Cutter ran after the runner, but the rain swallowed direction. Got one, Ryder snapped. Hannah pushed back into the room. Jace dragged a hooded man inside by the collar, soaked and furious. Ryder slammed him down and zip-tied his wrists behind his back. The man bucked once, then froze when Cutter put a knee into his shoulder. You don't know who you're messing with, he spat. Jace's voice didn't rise. I know exactly. Hannah's throat tightened. The face under the hood was late 20s, sharp and jittery, eyes darting like a trapped animal. She recognized him, the one who'd called to her in the warehouse alley. You followed me, she said, from the bar. The man's jaw clenched. Cutter patted him down and pulled out a phone. The screen was cracked, still lit. A lock screen photo, a kid holding a baseball glove. Not Noah. Jace held the phone up. Unlock it. Go to hell. Jace didn't argue. He nodded at Ryder. Thumb. Ryder grabbed the man's hand, pressed his thumb to the screen. The phone unlocked. Link's head snapped up, panic flaring. No! On the screen, a gallery opened to the last 10 photos. Hannah's breath stopped. Noah at Maple Ridge Park, sitting on a cracked picnic table with his paper dinosaur. Noah at the corner store with Hannah blurred in the background. Noah walking toward the school door, backpack bouncing. Dates, times, 2 weeks' worth. Hannah felt like she'd been punched in the lungs. He's been photographing my kid, Ryder scrolled. A screenshot of a text thread labeled DW. DW, keep eyes on boy. DW, mom routine. Link, storm on night, diner wed, DW, park sat, get close if possible. Link, already did, gave him the gift, DW, good, rabbit stays with him. Hannah's hands flew to her mouth, the gift, the rabbit, the tracker. Jace's face went still in a way that frightened her. So he didn't just get Noah's name, he said softly. He built a map of his life. Hannah turned on Link, shaking. You gave him that rabbit, Link's eyes darted. He said it was charity. He said a lot, Hannah snapped. Did you see my kid cry when a door got kicked in? Link swallowed hard, and for the first time his bravado leaked. I don't make the calls, he muttered. No, Cutter said. You just do the dirty. Hannah's mind flashed back to the parking lot, rain in her lashes, the ring in a puddle, the streetlight buzzing. She hadn't wanted to look around, because looking around meant admitting she was being watched, but she had looked. One more thing, she said suddenly, voice tight. When I picked up the ring, there was paper stuck to it, like a wet receipt. It tore and blew away. I thought it was trash. Jace's eyes cut to her. What kind of paper? Brown, Hannah said, with red ink, a stamp. I remember because it bled on my fingers, Ryder muttered. Railside. Hannah nodded, the memory sharpening now that she had a name for it. It said, Railside. I didn't know what it meant. I wiped my hand on my coat. Jace looked down at the phone again like it had become a weapon. He staged the ring with a shop trail, he said. He wanted a chain he could point at later. Ryder's voice went hard. He wanted to say she conspired to alter evidence. Hannah's stomach twisted. Every smart move Walsh made had a second purpose. Jace reached into Link's jacket and pulled out a folded receipt, half melted by rain. He opened it carefully. Engraving, one item, cash. He flipped it over, today's date, a time, and the shop name stamped at the bottom, Railside Pawn and Engraving. He had it engraved today, Hannah whispered, like saying it out loud made it more real. Ryder leaned in. Name. Link's gaze slid to the door as if he expected Walsh to kick it in and rescue him. Nobody came. Hannah stepped closer, voice low so it wouldn't carry down the hall to Noah. Look at me. What's your name? His stare held for a second, then cracked. Link, he muttered. They call me Link. Ryder's mouth tightened like he recognized it. You used to run packages for East Bay. I don't run with anybody, Link snapped. You run for Walsh, Cutter said. Link didn't deny it. He just breathed faster. Jace tapped the receipt. Who told you Noah's name? Link's eyes dropped. He did. Walsh, Ryder said. Link swallowed again, small and ugly. He said it was in a file. School. Something. A knock hit the front door. Fast, urgent, not polite. Jace! Brick's voice. Open! Jace flung the door wide. Brick shoved Mrs. Delgado inside under his arm, soaked, shaking, rosary clenched in her fist. Riot was behind them, eyes wild, scanning the yard. Walsh isn't alone, Riot said. Two unmarked behind him. Mrs. Delgado's gaze found Hannah and broke. I'm sorry, she whispered. He said Noah. He said they'd take him if I didn't answer. Hannah grabbed her quick and fierce. You're here. That's what matters. Brick's voice was clipped. He had her on the couch with photos spread out like homework. Backpack, the rabbit. He was building a story. Mrs. Delgado shook, tears mixing with rain. That rabbit, she whispered. A man gave it to Noah at the park. He said it was from the church toy drive. I thought it was kindness. Hannah squeezed her eyes shut. Kindness. A tracker sewn into a smile. A distant engine revved, sharp, close, followed by the unmistakable chirp of a siren that wasn't trying to be quiet anymore. Cutter's head snapped toward the yard. That's him. Jace looked around the room once, making decisions in his eyes. Pack, Noah goes first. Ryder, take the drive. Brick, get Mrs. Delgado in the SUV. Cutter, back gate. Link's voice cracked with fear. You gotta let me go. If he finds me, Jace crouched, voice quiet and brutal. If he finds you, he'll erase you. That's what you signed up for. Ryder grabbed Link by the collar and hauled him up. You're coming, he said. You owe a kid 2 weeks of breathing. Hannah ran for the cot room, scooped Noah up still asleep, and felt his warm weight against her shoulder like the only real thing left. Noah stirred, confused, eyes half opening. Mom? I'm here, Hannah whispered. Just hold on. They moved through the back exit into rain and darkness. The SUV idled by the fence, headlights off. Brick shoved Mrs. Delgado into the back seat, murmuring, "Breathe, ma'am. You're safe." Ryder forced Link into the cargo area, zip ties still on, then slammed it shut. Cutter rolled the SUV forward through the back gate the second Hannah got in, tires spitting water. As they pulled onto the service road, red and blue light washed the trees behind them, too close, sweeping across the wet branches like a hand searching. Walsh was already at the yard, and he was looking. The SUV slipped along the service road with its lights off, rain turning the world into a tunnel of gray. Behind them, the siren that had chirped once at the yard stayed silent now. Walsh didn't need noise anymore. He just needed distance. He could wait. He had resources. He had time. Hannah kept Noah pressed to her chest in the back seat, his head heavy on her shoulder, half asleep and confused. Mrs. Delgado sat beside her, hands locked around her rosary, whispering prayers like the words were nails holding the world together. In the cargo area, Link shifted against the zip ties, breathing fast through the dark. Every few seconds he tried to turn his head to see out the rear glass, like he expected Walsh's headlights to appear inside the car. Cutter drove with both hands steady, eyes scanning intersections before they reached them. Brick sat forward, watching side streets and mirrors. Ryder had the flash drive tucked in his jacket like it was a heartbeat. No one spoke until they hit the first main road, and Cutter eased the headlights on. "Where are we going?" Hannah asked, voice low so she wouldn't wake Noah fully. Brick didn't look back. "Somewhere Walsh can't make you disappear." "That bridge," Hannah said, bitterness sharp. "He picked it because it's quiet." "Then we pick loud," Ryder replied. Mrs. Delgado's voice trembled. "My apartment, my door." "You're alive," Brick said, not unkind. "That's what matters." A pair of headlights swung into the road behind them at a careful distance, not close enough to be obvious, not far enough to lose. Cutter's jaw tightened. "There," Hannah craned her neck. "That's him?" "Could be," Brick said. "Could be someone else. Either way, we don't give them a straight line." The SUV rolled through a stop sign without fully stopping, then took a right that looked random but wasn't. Cutter kept speed normal. A chase was a story. Walsh wanted a story. Cutter refused to give him one. They passed a closed laundromat, a dark church, a lit-up diner with 3 cars outside. Rain streaked neon into the street like spilled paint. Noah stirred. "Mom, where we go?" Hannah forced her voice gentle. "Just for a little drive, baby." "Hungry," he mumbled. That single word stabbed Hannah harder than Walsh's threats. Hungry meant normal. Hungry meant her kid still thought this was a night that could be fixed with snacks and cartoons. Ryder looked back, reading her face. "There's a place off Highway 9, he said. 24-hour gas, coffee, cameras, people." Brick's eyes narrowed. "People get hurt in places with people. People also witness," Ryder shot back. "Walsh wants quiet. If he moves in the dark. We drag him into light." Hannah's throat tightened. "We can't keep running like this." Brick's voice dropped. "Then don't run. Move smart." In the cargo area, Link suddenly spoke, voice thin. "He's not behind you." Brick turned slightly. "What?" Link swallowed. "Walsh doesn't trail the target. He shadows the exits. He'll put cars ahead. He'll make you stop yourselves." Ryder's eyes flicked to the windshield. "How do you know?" "Because I've done it," Link whispered. "For him. You don't chase, you trap." Hannah felt cold spread under her ribs. "Then why is someone back there?" "Because they want you looking behind," Link said. "So you miss the front." Cutter's head lifted a fraction, scanning the road ahead harder. A mile later, a set of headlights appeared in the distance, coming toward them, slow, wrong. Not in their lane yet, just drifting at the center line like the driver couldn't decide which side of the world he belonged to. Cutter muttered, "That's not drunk." The oncoming car swerved fully into their lane. Cutter didn't slam the brakes. He didn't panic. He jerked the wheel toward the shoulder, tires hissing over wet gravel, and the SUV skated past as the car shot by close enough for Hannah to see the driver's face. Hood up, eyes fixed, hands tight at 10 and 2 like he'd been told exactly what to do. In the mirror, the car corrected and fell in behind them. Now there were 2 behind, the original distant headlights and the new one, closer, aggressive. Brick's voice went flat. They're stacking. Noah's eyes opened wider now. He sensed the tension even without understanding it. "Mom?" "I'm here," Hannah whispered, kissing his temple. Her lips tasted rain and fear. Cutter took the next turn hard, onto a frontage road leading toward Highway 9. The gas station Ryder had mentioned sat up ahead like a small island of light, bright canopy, 2 pumps, a convenience store glowing with fluorescent harshness. A battered pickup sat by pump 1. 2 teenage boys leaned against it, laughing. A woman in scrubs filled her tank with one hand while scrolling her phone with the other. Cutter slowed. Decision. Brick's shoulders lifted once, then dropped. Do it. Fast. No mistakes. They rolled in under the canopy. The fluorescent lights hit Hannah's eyes like a slap. For the first time in hours, she could see her own hands clearly, pale and shaking around Noah's shoulders. Cutter parked by the far pump, closest to the store entrance. Brick was out first, scanning. Ryder stepped out and casually positioned himself between Hannah's door and the open lot, like a man making room in a crowd. "Inside," Brick murmured. "Warm. Food. Bathroom. Make it look normal." Hannah didn't want to move. Moving meant exposing Noah, but staying in the SUV felt like waiting for someone to break glass. She carried Noah into the store, Mrs. Delgado right behind her. The bell above the door chimed, cheerful and wrong. Inside, the clerk, a heavyset man with tired eyes, looked up from behind the counter. "Evening," Hannah forced a nod. "Hi?" Noah clung to her, wet curls stuck to his forehead. Hannah grabbed a pack of crackers, a bottle of water, a cheap hot chocolate from the machine. She didn't look at the security cameras, but she felt them like eyes. Brick stood near the door, pretending to read a rack of jerky. Ryder was by the coolers, watching reflections in the glass. Cutter stayed outside with the SUV, hood up as if checking something. Mrs. Delgado whispered, "Should we call?" Hannah cut her off softly. "Not yet." Because yet meant she still believed there was a version of this where a call fixed things. She didn't know if that version existed anymore. Noah took the crackers with both hands and started eating like he hadn't eaten in days. Hannah watched him chew and felt tears burn her eyes. Then the bell chimed again. 2 men walked in. Not cops, no uniforms, hoodies soaked dark, ball caps pulled low. They moved like they belonged in places where people didn't ask questions. Hannah's spine went rigid. Ryder's head turned a fraction toward them, then away, like he didn't want them to know he'd noticed. The men split. One drifted toward the back aisle. The other stopped at the coffee station and stared at the price labels too long, like he was waiting for a cue. Brick's hand slid into his jacket, not drawing anything, just ready. Hannah tightened her hold on Noah. The clerk glanced up again, uneasy now. The teens outside laughed louder, oblivious. The woman in scrubs finished pumping gas and walked toward the door, phone still in her hand. The man by the coffee station lifted his head and looked right at Hannah, not a curious glance, a locked-on stare. Hannah's stomach dropped. She knew that look. She'd seen it at the alley behind the rusty anchor. She'd seen it in Walsh's apartment light. The man smiled just enough to show he was enjoying her fear. Then he reached into his pocket and pulled out a badge, not clipped, not official looking, just something flashed fast in the air. "My ma'am," he said, loud enough to fill the store. "Sheriff's office. We need to speak with you about your child." Hannah's lungs seized. Brick moved in the same instant, stepping between the man and Hannah like a door slamming shut. "No," Brick said, calm. The man's smile tightened. "Step aside." Ryder drifted closer too, casual as a man choosing a drink, but his eyes were sharp and ready. The second hooded man at the back aisle moved, fast. He came around behind Hannah, reaching. Hannah saw the hand extend toward Noah's arm. Time narrowed. Hannah turned, twisting Noah away, and shouted without meaning to. "Don't touch him!" Noah gasped, crackers falling from his hands. The woman in scrubs froze mid-step, eyes snapping up from her phone. One of the teenage boys outside looked through the window, eyebrows lifting. The hooded man didn't stop. He grabbed for Noah's sleeve. Brick didn't punch him. Brick hooked the man's wrist with one hand and rolled it inward with a sharp, controlled twist that made the man's knees buckle like the joint had suddenly decided gravity was personal. The hooded man made a strangled sound and stumbled sideways. Brick guided him down, hard but not brutal, pinning him to the floor with a knee near his shoulder blades, keeping his head from cracking the tile. Stay down, Brick said, voice even. The man by the coffee station reached under his hoodie like he was going for something. Ryder moved like a switch flipped. He stepped in and caught the man's forearm before it cleared the fabric, turning the motion into a stumble. Ryder didn't swing. He didn't strike. He just took the man's balance away and drove him backward into the refrigerated drink case with a loud, rattling slam. Soda bottles clinked. The man grunted, wind knocked out. The clerk behind the counter finally found his voice. Hey, what the hell? The woman in scrubs lifted her phone instinctively, camera already open because that's what people do now when the world breaks in public. One of the teenagers outside rushed to the window, filming too, mouth hanging open. Hannah backed up until her shoulder hit a shelf of chips. Noah pressed against her chest, trembling. Her heart hammered so hard she could taste metal. The man pinned under Brick spat. You're making this worse. Brick didn't look at him. You tried to grab a kid. The man by the drink case coughed, eyes wild. We're taking him into protective custody. Without uniforms, Ryder said. Without a cruiser. Without paperwork. The clerk looked from one man to the other, panic rising. I'm calling. Call, Ryder snapped. Now! The clerk grabbed the phone with shaking hands. Outside, tires hissed on wet pavement. Hannah's eyes flicked through the glass doors. A dark sedan had rolled up to the far edge of the lot, engine running, lights off under the canopy shadow. A driver sat inside, still as a statue, and beyond it, on the road, a cruiser's headlights turned in. Walsh. He was arriving to collect what his men brought. The man under Brick saw Hannah look and smiled through pain. He's here, he whispered. Hannah's voice broke. Please, stop. Brick's knee pressed a fraction harder. Shut up. The store's bell chimed again as the woman in scrubs stepped out, still filming, eyes huge. They just tried to take that kid, she said into her phone, voice shaking. 2 men. They said sheriff's office, but they're not in uniform. The bikers. Oh my God, the bikers are stopping them. Hannah's skin prickled at that word. Bikers. Like it was a category that explained everything, like it was supposed to be the scary part. Outside, Walsh's cruiser rolled under the canopy and stopped at an angle that made him the center of the lot. He didn't rush. He didn't slam doors. He stepped out like a man arriving at a meeting he scheduled. Rain slid off his hat brim. His uniform was crisp. His badge was real. His gun sat on his hip like the law itself. He looked through the glass door, eyes landing on Hannah and Noah, and he smiled. Small, satisfied, certain. He lifted a hand and tapped his own chest, then pointed at Noah. Mine. The clerk's voice rose behind the counter, frantic into the phone. Send somebody right now. Highway 9 Quick Mart. There's men fighting. There's a child. Walsh's gaze never left Hannah. He raised his voice, calm enough to sound reasonable to anyone listening. Hannah, he called her through the door, it's over. Hand me the child and you can go home. Noah started to cry, small and broken. Mom. Hannah tightened her hold so hard she felt him wince. Her eyes locked on Walsh's face, and she realized the worst part. He wasn't angry. He wasn't scared. He was comfortable. Like he'd done this before, and the ending always went his way. Walsh stood just outside the glass doors, like the rain couldn't touch him. His cruiser idled under the canopy, angled so every camera caught the badge on his chest and the calm on his face. He let the scene breathe. 2 men on the floor, one pinned by Brick, one half crumpled against the drink case, a clerk shaking on the phone, strangers filming. He wanted witnesses, just not the kind that told the truth. Hannah, he called, voice steady enough to sound kind. Come here, let's get you and your son out of this. Hannah didn't move. Noah's small hands clutched the front of her hoodie like he could pull her into his body and hide. His tears came silent now. Wide-eyed, shaking, trying not to make noise because he could feel the danger, even if he didn't understand it. Brick stayed between them, knee still pinning the man on the tile. You don't have paperwork, Brick said. You don't have a unit number for these clowns. You don't have anything. Walsh's eyes flicked down at the pinned man, then back up, patient. Brick, he said like they were old neighbors. Get off him. The pinned man tried to grin through the pain. Tell him, he rasped. Tell him we're— Shut up, Ryder snapped without raising his voice. He was close enough to the second man that any sudden move would be a mistake. Walsh took 1 step toward the door. The automatic sensor didn't open it because he wasn't close enough yet. That was on purpose. He kept the glass between them so the cameras could see him as the reasonable one. "This is how it looks," Walsh said, spreading his hands. "Two unidentified men in custody, a frightened mother, bikers laying hands on people in a public store. You want this to go viral, Hannah? You want Noah's face on the internet attached to the word gang?" The woman in scrubs held her phone higher. The teen outside moved closer to the window, filming with both hands like he couldn't believe his luck. Hannah's voice came out thin. "They tried to grab my son." Walsh nodded like he'd expected her to say that. "And you're shaken. Of course you are. That's why I'm here." He tilted his head softer. "You don't know who these men are. You don't know what they want. You're scared. Let me take over." Ryder's laugh was short and sharp. "You mean, take the kid." Walsh's eyes slid to Ryder like a blade. "I mean, protect him." The pinned man on the tile tried to shift. Brick's knee pressed down just enough to stop him without slamming him. "You move again," Brick said quietly, "and you'll remember this pain for the rest of your life." The man froze, breathing hard. Behind the counter, the clerk's voice cracked into the phone. "They said sheriff's office, but they ain't in uniform. There's a deputy out front now. Please, send somebody." Walsh heard every word. His jaw tightened for the first time, a microslip. He stepped closer, and the doors slid open with a cheerful hiss. Cold air and rain smell flooded the store. Walsh didn't rush inside. He stayed just over the threshold where the cameras could still frame him. His gaze swept the aisle, clocked the phones filming, the clerk on 911, the strangers watching. Then his eyes locked on Hannah again. "Ma'am," he said, voice firm now, official. "I'm placing you under an emergency protective hold until we can determine the child's safety." Hannah's stomach dropped. "You can't." "I can," Walsh said, "and I am." He reached to his shoulder mic. "Dispatch, I need EMS to Highway 9 Quickmart. Possible mental health crisis involving a minor." The words hit Hannah like a slap. Mental health, crisis. He was going to paint her as unstable. The woman in scrubs said out loud, stunned, "She's not. She's holding her kid." Walsh ignored her. Ryder took a half step closer to Hannah, shielding her without touching her. "He's reframing," he said under his breath. "He can't snatch in front of cameras, so he'll label you." Hannah's pulse pounded in her ears. If EMS came, Walsh could get Noah separated. "Noah, stay with me," she whispered, voice breaking. "Do you hear me? Don't let go." Noah nodded hard, crying silently. Walsh kept his eyes on Hannah like he could hypnotize her into compliance. "It doesn't have to be ugly," he said. "Just come with me. Noah comes too. We sort it out, and you'll be home by morning." Brick's voice cut through, low and iron. "You put a tracker in a child's toy." For the first time, Walsh's smile twitched. "That's an accusation." "We have the device," Brick said. "We have the man who gave it to him." Walsh didn't look at Brick. He looked past him, like the words were smoke. "You people always think you're clever," he murmured. "Always think you can play evidence games." The pinned man suddenly barked, desperate. "Deputy, tell him we're good." Walsh's head snapped down. "Not a word." The man's mouth shut instantly. That was all the proof Hannah needed. The clerk's phone rang once, and his face changed, relief mixed with fear. Yes, quick as you can." A new set of headlights swept the lot, not a cruiser. A white and blue unit with a different silhouette pulled under the canopy and stopped hard. The door opened and a tall man stepped out in a brimmed hat, rain hitting his shoulders like pellets. His uniform wasn't Sheriff Brown, state trooper. He walked in with purpose, eyes scanning the scene the way people do when they've seen too many scenes. "What's going on?" the trooper asked, voice loud enough to cut through the store. Walsh turned on the smile again so fast it was almost impressive. "Trooper, good. I've got a situation involving—" The trooper's gaze flicked to the two men on the floor, then to Hannah clutching her child, then to the phones filming. "I heard attempted kidnapping on the call," he said. "Is that accurate?" The woman in scrubs spoke before anyone else could. "Two men tried to grab her kid," she said, shaking but clear. "They said sheriff's office, but they don't have uniforms. The deputy out there showed up after." The teen outside hammered on the glass, chiming in with a cracked voice. "Yeah, man, they tried to take him." Walsh's smile tightened. "They're plain clothes." The trooper's eyes sharpened. "Badge numbers?" Walsh didn't hesitate. "They're contractors." "Contractors," the trooper repeated, flat. Walsh's tone cooled. "This is my county." The trooper looked at him like that line didn't mean what Walsh thought it meant. "And that's my highway," he said. "And this is my call now because it came in as a felony attempt." Walsh's jaw worked. A muscle jumped in his cheek. The trooper stepped toward the pinned man. "You," he said, "sit up slow. Show me credentials." The man's eyes flicked to Walsh like he was waiting for permission to exist. Walsh didn't give it. The trooper held his palm up. "Now." Brick eased off just enough for the man to sit. The man fumbled at his pocket, pulled out a wallet, and flashed something so fast it was meaningless. "Hold it," the trooper snapped. The man hesitated. Ryder stepped in and spoke to the trooper without looking like he was speaking to a trooper. "He's faking it," Ryder said. "Ask him his supervisor's name." The trooper's gaze stayed on the man. "Supervisor." The man licked his lips. "Deputy." "Name," the trooper said. The man glanced at Walsh again. Walsh's voice cut like a razor. "You don't have to answer anything." The trooper turned his head slowly to Walsh. "Are you obstructing my investigation?" Walsh's smile disappeared. "I'm protecting a minor." The trooper looked at Hannah. "Ma'am," he said, voice softer. "Are you okay? Do you want medical? Do you want to press charges for attempted abduction?" Hannah's throat tightened. She could feel Walsh's eyes boring into her. One wrong sentence and he'd spend the rest of her life punishing it. But the phones were still up. The woman in scrubs was still recording. The teen outside was still filming. Hannah swallowed hard and forced her voice to work. "They tried to take my son," she said, loud enough for the phones. "I said no. They didn't stop." Walsh's eyes narrowed. The trooper nodded once, decisive. "Okay. Then nobody takes that child anywhere until I understand who these men are." He looked to the clerk. "You got cameras?" "Yes," the clerk stammered, pointing upward. "Good," the trooper said. "I want that footage preserved." Walsh stepped forward, voice suddenly sharper. "Trooper, you're out of your lane. This woman is connected to—" "To what?" the trooper snapped. Walsh caught himself mid-sentence. He could feel the cameras. He pivoted. "To an ongoing investigation." The trooper stared at him, unimpressed. "Then show me your paperwork. On scene. Right now." Walsh's hands curled once, then relaxed. His gaze slid back to Hannah, and the warmth returned just enough to look reasonable. "Fine," he said. "Hannah, you're not under arrest." He lifted his chin toward the door. "You want to go home? You can go home." Hannah didn't believe him for a second. Walsh continued, louder, for the cameras. "But if you're smart, you'll come to the office tomorrow and give a statement." "Later." Walsh's eyes flicked to Ryder later. Walsh's eyes flicked to Ryder. "And you," he said, "should remember you're not untouchable." The trooper stepped between them, not gentle now. "Deputy, step outside. Now." Walsh held the trooper's gaze for a long beat, two men measuring power. Then Walsh smiled again, small and cold, and backed out through the doors. Rain swallowed him. The trooper turned back to the store and raised his voice. "Everyone keep filming if you want," he said. "But if I see a weapon, everybody's going to the ground." No one moved. Hannah's whole body shook. Noah's face was wet and terrified. Mrs. Delgado's hands trembled around her rosary like she was trying to pray a hole through the ceiling. Brick leaned in close to Hannah, voice barely there. "We can't stay. Walsh will pull a different lever." "What lever?" Hannah whispered. Ryder's eyes cut to the trooper, then to the parking lot, then back. "He'll call another unit, or he'll claim you fled the scene, or he'll make sure the trooper gets rerouted on his way out." The trooper pointed at the two hooded men. "You two are coming with me," he said. Walsh's men panicked, talking over each other, loud, messy, human. And that was the opening. Brick shifted his body just enough to shield Hannah from the trooper's line of sight for a heartbeat. Ryder's hand touched Hannah's elbow, steering, not grabbing. "Now," Ryder murmured. Hannah moved because her body knew how to move now. She carried Noah toward the back aisle as if she needed a bathroom. Mrs. Delgado followed, head down. Brick stayed half a step behind, making it look like a protective husband, not a biker. They slipped through the employees' only door beside the coolers. The clerk saw them and opened his mouth. Brick lifted a finger to his lips, eyes hard but pleading. The clerk shut his mouth. Ryder pushed it open. Rain hit them like or created turdist sort of turnedis. He couldn't notice that. Did that in a tone deber for any and red notice for any ta. Everybody turned to sort of penetrate his woody emperor, the train, stated thunder tenant and burr. Anything was certain it, but Ryder pushed it open. Rain hit them like a wall. Behind the building, the lot was darker, less watched. A fence line, a dumpster, the roar of the highway beyond. Cutter was already there in the shadow, engine running in a different vehicle, low, unmarked, ready. Hannah didn't even ask where it came from. She ran the last steps, Noah clinging, sobbing into her shoulder. They piled in, Mrs. Delgado first, then Hannah and Noah, Brick last. The door slammed. Cutter hit the gas. As the vehicle jerked forward into the dark, Hannah looked back through the rear glass. Under the canopy, Walsh stood beside his cruiser, just out of the trooper's direct attention, watching the side of the building like he'd known exactly which door they'd use. His eyes met Hannah's through the rain-streaked window. He didn't look surprised. He lifted 2 fingers to his brow in a slow, mocking salute. And then he smiled wider, like he'd just confirmed something he'd already planned to do. Brick's voice cut through the engine noise, low and urgent, right in Hannah's ear. "Hannah," he said, "Jace can't keep dodging this. You need to hear it from him tonight, because Walsh isn't trying to take Noah away from you." Hannah's throat went dry. "Then what is he trying to do?" Brick stared straight ahead, jaw tight, and said the words like they were a door slamming shut. "He's trying to take Noah back from his father." Cutter's sedan ran dark through the rail yard district, cutting side streets like it knew every camera and every blind spot. Hannah didn't ask questions. She kept Noah on her shoulder and felt his fingers still knotted in her hoodie even as he slept. Brick watched the mirrors like he was counting ghosts. "His father," Hannah said, voice raw. "That's what you said." Brick didn't look back. "That's what Walsh wants." He paused. "Jace owes you the rest." They pulled behind a low warehouse with one lit window. The door opened before they reached it. Jace stood under the overhang, sleeves rolled, rain in his hair, eyes already locked on Noah. He didn't move closer, like he was afraid the wrong step would wake him or scare him. Inside, the space was bare and muffled. Concrete, stacked tires, a heater humming, a folding table with the laptop, the flash drive, and the ring sealed in a plastic bag. Ryder and Riot arrived a minute later with Mrs. Delgado. Link came last, zip-tied to a chair, face drained, jaw working like he couldn't swallow. Hannah laid Noah on a couch. He blinked awake for a second, saw her, saw the room, then his eyes landed on Jace. Noah didn't cry. He just stared, confused, like he was trying to match a face to a feeling. Hannah brushed his hair back. "Close your eyes, baby." Noah's lids finally sank. His breathing evened out, but his hand stayed hooked around her hoodie string, stubborn even in sleep. Hannah turned the moment he slept. "Talk." Jace didn't dodge. "Walsh tried to take him at the Quick Mart. In front of people," Hannah snapped. "He called me a crisis and sent men to grab my kid." Ryder set the flash drive down. Trooper slowed it down, but Walsh watched us leave. "He's not done." Hannah slammed her palm on the table. The ring jumped inside its bag. "Why is Noah's name inside that ring?" Jace's gaze flicked to the couch, then back to her. "Because he's my son." For a second, Hannah couldn't breathe. The words didn't make sense inside her mouth. "No," she whispered, "that's impossible." "It isn't," Jace said. No drama, no apology, just the truth in a flat line. "And I didn't know about him until after he was born." Hannah's voice cracked higher. "So you just... what?" "You vanished." Jace pulled a faded hospital wristband from his pocket and set it down between them like a receipt. Noah Carter. "How did you..." Hannah started, then stopped. Because the answer was in his face. He'd been close enough to touch it. "Walsh delayed me," Jace said. "Then he told the hospital I was a threat. He made sure I never got a call that mattered. Every time I tried to get legal, I got advice from the same county office that answers to him," Mrs. Delgado whispered, shaking. "He kept asking about papers, about the boy." "Because papers are chains," Brick muttered. "Walsh uses them to drag people where he wants." Hannah stared at Jace. Rage and fear tangled until she couldn't tell which was keeping her upright. "So he wants Noah to control you." "To control everything," Jace said. "If he gets Noah into protective custody, he owns you, and he owns me." Ryder leaned in, brisk. "We have Walsh planting the ring on Miller's footage. We have the railside engraving receipt. We have a tracker pulled from the Rabbit, and we have an attempted grab on camera at the Quick Mart with witnesses." Hannah's throat tightened. Then we take it to someone who isn't him. We will, Ryder said. But Walsh will file first. He'll label you a kidnapper before sunrise, then every good cop in the county becomes his leash, Riot added, and every civilian becomes his eyes. Cutter checked the door, listening. That's already starting. Jace's eyes hardened. We force him to make a move we can't bury. Riot's jaw set. We bait him. Hannah's head snapped. With my child? No, Jace said instantly. With the ring. He lifted the bagged ring. Even through plastic it looked heavy, final. He wants it back, Jace said. It's his lever. He thinks if he gets it, he can erase the engraving and rewrite tonight. Brick nodded. And he wants Hannah walking into his story. Ryder looked at Link. So we give him a story we control. Link shook hard, panic leaking. He'll kill me. He'll kill you anyway, Riot said. Loose ends don't retire. Hannah stepped closer to Link, voice low enough not to wake Noah. You stalked my kid. You put a tracker in a toy. You're going to help undo it. Link's eyes darted to Jace, pleading. Jace didn't blink. First you confess. On camera. Clean. Brick clipped the body cam to a shelf, aimed at Link's face in the table. The red light blinked steady. Link's breath came fast. I didn't want names, Ryder cut in. Dates. Who paid you? Who told you to give the rabbit? Link swallowed so hard his throat jumped. Walsh paid me, he said, voice cracking. Cash. $200 a day at first, then more when she found the ring. Hannah's stomach rolled. You watched my kid for money. Link flinched. He said it was welfare. He said the mother was unstable. He said the club was using her. Stop, Hannah snapped. You saw a 5-year-old and you still did it. Link's eyes wet with fear, not guilt. He told me where the park was. He told me the kid's name. He told me what to say so the neighbor wouldn't question the rabbit. Toy drive. Church. Brick's voice went flat. And the engraving. Link shook his head quickly. I didn't do the engraving. Walsh did. He went to Railside himself. I was in the truck. I saw him come out with the receipt. Ryder leaned closer so the cam caught every word. You saw him plant the ring. Link nodded fast. Yes, he said. Put it where the mom finds it. He said she'd do the right thing. He said the right thing was a weapon. Hannah's hands trembled at her sides. She felt sick, but the sickness was useful now, fuel. Jace's gaze stayed on Link. Good. Keep talking. Link swallowed again. He said once you ran, he'd make it an amber. He said the whole county would hunt you for him. The room went still. Ryder exhaled through his nose. So he planned that too. Jace's voice went very quiet. He planned everything. Ryder straightened. We need redundancy. If we capture Walsh and the footage disappears, we're dead. Cutter nodded once. We stream. Ryder pulled out an old phone, cracked screen, and shoved it across the table. We start a live upload to a cloud account not tied to any of us. 2 phones, 2 angles, continuous. If someone smashes one, the other keeps going. Brick added, and we don't bring patches. Walsh wrote it. If I see patches, I take the boy. He wants an excuse. Jace looked at Brick. I go plain. No cut, no colors. Hannah's eyes snapped up. You're going. Jace didn't hesitate. If Walsh thinks he can take my son, I'm there to watch him try. Ryder pointed to the ring and the wristband. Hannah carries the paperwork. The ring stays bagged. You don't hand anything over until we have him on record demanding Noah. Hannah's voice came out tight. And Noah? Brick's answer was immediate. Not anywhere near Railside. Hannah's chest tightened. He can't be alone. Mrs. Delgado stepped forward, trembling but firm. He can stay with me, she whispered. I'll hold him. I'll lock the door. I'll do it right this time. Hannah's throat burned. She nodded once because there wasn't a perfect choice left. Riot checked his phone. We should loop the trooper in, the one from Quickmart. Jace's eyes narrowed. How? Riot held up the Quickmart witness footage the woman in scrubs had started recording. She posted a short clip already. My cousin screenshotted it. State will see it. Ryder's jaw tightened. Or Walsh will. Cutter looked at the door again. Then we move faster. Ryder turned to Link's phone. Text Walsh. Tell him she's spooked once earlier. Link blinked. He'll suspect. Brick's hand closed on Link's shoulder, heavy. Text. Link typed with shaking thumbs. She's freaking. Amber will hit. She wants now. 20 minutes. A bubble appeared. Then, 10 minutes, backlot, ring first. Ryder angled Brick's cam at the screen again. He's rushing. Good. Hannah's mouth went dry. 10 minutes. Jace stepped close enough that Hannah could smell rain on him. You don't owe me trust, he said quietly. But you owe Noah a future where a deputy can't rewrite his life. Hannah stared at him, hate and fear and something else colliding. If you're lying, I'm not, Jace said, and after tonight you can hate me in daylight. Cutter moved toward the door. Time. Hannah turned toward the couch. Noah slept, small and unaware, still holding her string. She pried his fingers loose gently, one by one, and her hands shook so badly she had to press them to her jeans. Her pocket buzzed. Her phone was still in airplane mode, but emergency alerts punched through anyway. The screen lit her face in the dim warehouse. Amber alert, missing child, Noah Carter, last seen with mother, suspected abduction, contact sheriff's office. Hannah's hands went numb. Mrs. Delgado covered her mouth. Oh, God. Jace stared at the alert, then at Hannah, like the air had been stolen. Hannah understood in one cold, clean flash. Walsh hadn't waited for Railside to start the fire. He'd already told the whole county she was the villain. The amber alert sat on Hannah's screen like a sentence. She stared at it until the words stopped looking real. Missing child, suspected abduction, until her brain finally caught up to what Walsh had just done. He hadn't needed Noah in his hands to take him. He only needed the county to believe she was the one running. Ryder's voice stayed low, urgent. He just weaponized every citizen with a phone. Mrs. Delgado swayed like the floor moved. They'll come to my place, she whispered. They'll bang my door down. They won't find you there, Brick said. You're not going back. Hannah's throat tightened. Noah! Jace was already moving, grabbing a jacket, checking the ring bag, eyes hard and focused like he'd shut off every feeling that could slow him down. Noah doesn't leave this building, he said. Not tonight. Hannah snapped her head toward the couch. You said, I know what I said, Jace cut in, quiet but absolute. And the second that alert hit, every patrol car in the county became Walsh's hands. We don't move Noah through open streets. Riot nodded once. He's right. Roadblocks in 10 minutes. Hannah's chest squeezed so tight it hurt. She crossed the room fast, knelt by the couch, touched Noah's cheek. He was half awake, lashes wet, looking up at her like he could feel the storm without seeing it. Mom, he whispered. I'm here, Hannah said, voice breaking. She forced it steady because he needed steady. You're going to stay with Mrs. Delgado for a little bit, okay? Right here. Noah's lower lip trembled. I want to go. I know, Hannah whispered, brushing his hair back. But you're safe here. I'm coming back. He clutched her sleeve. Promise? Hannah swallowed hard and nodded. Promise. Mrs. Delgado stepped in, hands shaking, and sat on the edge of the couch like she was afraid she'd fall through it. I'll hold him, she whispered. I won't let anybody take him. Noah looked at her, then back at Hannah, and nodded like he was trying to be brave because the adults were falling apart. Hannah stood, wiped her face hard with her sleeve, then turned back to the table. We go now, she said. We end this now. Ryder slid the cracked phone toward her. Live stream starts before we roll. No pauses, no dead air. If he smashes it, it keeps uploading until it dies. Riot pulled out a second phone. Mine too. 2 angles. Brick held up the tiny black tracker from the rabbit, sealed in a plastic bag. This goes on camera, the receipt goes on camera, and the Miller's footage stays duplicated. Jace looked at Hannah. You don't speak first. Hannah's eyes flashed. He's calling me a kidnapper on every screen in this town. I know, Jace said. That's why you don't give him a clean sentence he can cut and paste. Let him talk. Let him demand. Let him threaten. We capture him doing it. Cutter checked his watch. 10 minutes is already 8. Ryder clicked both streams live. The screens showed jittery images of the warehouse walls, then faces. Hannah, pale and furious. Jace, flat-eyed. Brick and Riot behind them like shadows. Ryder angled his phone so it framed Hannah in the ring bag on the table. Say the date, he murmured. Hannah's voice shook but held. February 21st, Ryder nodded. Say where we're going. Hannah looked into the lens like she was looking into the whole county that would soon be hunting her. Railside pawn and engraving, she said. Backlot. Jace didn't like saying it out loud, but he didn't stop her. They moved. No patches, no cuts. Hoodies and plain jackets, a different vehicle, lights normal, speed normal. Nothing to trigger a stop that could turn into a seizure. Outside, rain blurred every streetlight into a smear. The Amber Alert pinged again on Hannah's phone, like Walsh was tapping her shoulder from across town. They reached Railside in 6 minutes. The pawn shop sat off the highway with a faded sign and a row of security cameras bolted under the eaves. The front lot was empty except for one sedan parked crooked near the dumpsters, dark windows, engine running. A silhouette behind the wheel. Walsh's perimeter. Cutter didn't drive into the front. He rolled past, turned into the back service lane, and killed the headlights for a breath before easing forward again. They wanted cameras. They just wanted the right cameras. The backlot was tighter, boxed in by a chain-link fence and a loading dock. One bright floodlight hummed over the dumpster area, turning rain into silver needles. Walsh's cruiser sat there already, idling under the floodlight like he'd staged the lighting for a photo. And Walsh stood in the open, hands in his pockets, rain sliding off his hat brim, looking relaxed, like a man who'd never been told no in his life. Hannah's stomach turned. Ryder's phone kept streaming. Riot's phone kept streaming. The little red live indicator glowed like a heartbeat. Cutter parked at an angle that put their faces in the floodlight and the cruiser in frame. Brick got out first, slow, hands visible. Ryder stayed close enough to Hannah that she could feel him behind her shoulder, not touching, just there. Jace stepped out last. Walsh's eyes flicked to him and something tightened in Walsh's mouth, quick and ugly, before the smile came back. "Good," Walsh called. "You brought an audience." Hannah held the bagged ring tight against her chest. Her hands were shaking, but she didn't let it show in her voice. "You called an Amber Alert on my son." Walsh's smile widened. "I did what I had to do. Missing child. Suspected abduction. Standard." "Standard," Brick repeated, flat. Walsh's gaze slid to Brick like he was a stain. "You don't get to speak. You're not even supposed to be here." Jay stepped half a pace forward. "Neither are your men." Walsh's eyes narrowed slightly. "My men." Riot's camera caught everything. Walsh's calm, the cruiser, the floodlight, the rain, the ring bag in Hannah's hands. Walsh lifted his chin toward Hannah. "Ring first," he said. "Then we talk." Hannah didn't move. "You planted it." Walsh chuckled like she'd said something cute. "Careful, Hannah. You're already listed as a suspect. Don't add false statements to it." Ryder spoke quietly, not to Walsh but to the stream. "Deputy Walsh is requesting property he claims is evidence while the mother is under an Amber Alert for abduction. We are recording." Walsh's gaze snapped to Ryder's phone. His eyes sharpened like a predator noticing the trap late. "What is that?" Walsh asked. Ryder didn't flinch. "A phone." Walsh took one step closer, voice still calm but thinner now. "Turn it off." "No," Hannah said. Walsh's smile disappeared for the first time. "Hannah." "Turn it off." Hannah felt her fear try to climb her throat and she shoved it back down. "Where's my son's father listed in his file?" she asked, loud enough for both streams. "Why are you obsessed with Noah's documents?" Walsh's eyes locked on her like she'd crossed a line he'd drawn in his own head. "Because I don't like lies," he said softly, "and your whole life is built on one." Jace's jaw flexed. "Say what you mean." Walsh's gaze slid to Jace. "You want me to say it?" he asked, almost amused. "Fine." He stepped closer into the floodlight so every camera could see his badge and his face. "That child belongs in the system," Walsh said, voice smooth. "Not with a woman running around biker bars, not with a man like you circling him." Hannah's stomach dropped. "He belongs with me." Walsh ignored her, eyes on Jace now. "And if you want to keep breathing in this county, you'll stop pretending you have a claim." Jace didn't raise his voice. "He's my son." The words hit the rain like a gunshot without the sound. Walsh's face didn't change, because he'd been waiting for it. But his eyes did, a quick flash of satisfaction that the stream caught. "Finally," Walsh murmured, "there it is." Ryder's voice cut in, controlled. "Deputy Walsh, you are acknowledging paternity is involved." Walsh's head snapped toward the phones again. "I said turn it off." Brick lifted his hand slightly, empty. "You can't erase a live stream, Walsh." Walsh's nostrils flared. The calm was cracking now, hairline fractures. Hannah held the ring bag up. "You engraved Noah's name inside this ring," she said. "You planted it in the rain. You sent a man to give my kid a rabbit with a tracker inside it. You sent 2 men to grab him in a gas station." Walsh's jaw tightened. You can say anything you want. Doesn't make it true. Riot's phone shifted slightly, framing Walsh tighter. Then answer one question, Riot said. Why was the engraving done at Railside today? Walsh's eyes flicked, fast, toward the pawn shop door. He'd just been reminded where he was standing. Hannah's voice stayed steady now, the anger giving her shape. You told me to bring my son's birth certificate so you could put him in protective custody, she said. You said you could send him to foster care in Baton Rouge. Walsh's mouth tightened. I said, You did, Hannah snapped, and you issued an Amber Alert to make me look like I stole my own child. Walsh's gaze hardened into something that wasn't pretending anymore. Give me the ring, he said, quiet and dangerous. No, Hannah said. Walsh took another step. Jace moved at the same time, not aggressive, just blocking the direct line to Hannah. Touch her and you're done, he said. Walsh smiled again, but it wasn't warm. Done? He echoed. You think you can end me with a phone? He lifted his chin toward the chain-link fence. Two shapes moved in the dark beyond the lot, men, hoodies, hanging back, waiting for a signal. Walsh didn't even look at them. He just spoke like he owned the air. Hand me the ring, he said, or I keep that amber active until your face is on every gas station screen from here to Houston, and when some eager citizen spots you and somebody gets hurt, that's on you. Hannah's hands shook. The stream caught it. Good. Let the county see what fear looked like when it was forced onto a mother. Then, Ryder's voice tight. Headlights. A vehicle turned into the service lane, fast, clean, purposeful. Not a sheriff cruiser, a state unit. The same trooper from the Quick Mart stepped into the floodlight, rain streaming off his hat, eyes already taking in Walsh, the cruiser, the phones, the ring bag, the men in the dark beyond the fence. Walsh's expression flickered, just once. The trooper's voice carried. Deputy Walsh, he called sharp, step away from the civilians. Walsh's smile tried to come back and failed halfway. Trooper, he said, a little too friendly. This doesn't concern. It concerns me, the trooper cut in. He looked straight at Hannah. Ma'am, are you the subject of the Amber Alert? Hannah swallowed hard. Yes, she said. And it's false, Walsh snapped. She's abducting. The trooper raised a hand, shutting him down without looking at him. Deputy, you will not speak over a witness on my scene. Walsh's face tightened. The trooper looked at the phones. Are you recording? Ryder lifted his phone slightly. Live streaming. The trooper nodded once. Good. Keep it rolling. Walsh's eyes went cold. You're making a mistake. The trooper stepped closer, voice hardening. No, you did. Walsh's hand moved, quick, toward Ryder's phone like he was going to snatch it. Brick shifted, intercepting without striking, just putting a forearm in the way. The trooper saw it, saw Walsh's intent, saw everything. Deputy Walsh, the trooper said louder. Step back. Hands where I can see them. Walsh froze for half a second under the floodlight, rain dripping off his hat brim, looking like a man deciding whether the rules still applied to him. Then, his eyes slid to Hannah, and his voice dropped into something almost intimate, meant for her, but caught by the stream anyway. You really think this ends it? Walsh whispered. I can still get to him. The words turned Hannah's blood to ice. The trooper stepped forward, hand hovering near his holster, not drawing, but ready. Deputy, now. Walsh's jaw clenched, his hands lifted slowly, palms out, performing innocence for the camera, while his eyes stayed locked on Hannah like a promise. And in the dark beyond the chain-link fence, one of the hooded shapes shifted forward, just one step, like somebody had just given the order without speaking. The trooper's hand hovered near his holster, not drawn, but ready. The rain made everything shine. Walsh's badge, the cruiser's hood, the plastic bag in Hannah's hands. Walsh didn't look at the trooper. He kept his eyes on Hannah like he could pull her toward him with a stare. You really think this ends it? He repeated, softer now, the words meant to crawl under skin. I can still get to him. The stream caught it. Both phones caught it. The floodlight made his face plain. The trooper's voice snapped sharp. Deputy Walsh, step back, hands up. Walsh lifted his palms higher, performing compliance. Trooper, you're escalating. Behind the chain-link fence, the hooded shape moved again. One step forward, then another, faster now, using the cruiser as cover. Brick saw it first. He shifted, blocking Hannah with his body. "Fence," he said, flat. Riot's camera swung. The hooded man was inside the lot now, cutting around the dumpster line like he'd been told exactly where the light didn't reach. His hand was under his hoodie. The trooper's posture changed in a blink. "Stop!" he barked. "Hands where I can see them." The hooded man didn't stop. Walsh didn't turn to look. He didn't have to. His mouth twitched like he was satisfied the machine was running. Brick moved without punching, without theatrics, just fast. He met the hooded man at the edge of the floodlight and slammed him into the fence with a hard shoulder check that stole his breath. The man's hand came out empty. No gun, just a heavy black object. A phone. Brick pinned him with one forearm and yanked the device away. The screen was open to a live view. Walsh's cruiser, the floodlight, Hannah's face. A second stream, Walsh's backup recording from his own man. "Trooper," Ryder called, loud for the cameras. "He's filming too." The hooded man bucked once. Brick kept him locked without smashing him. "Stay!" Brick growled low. The trooper stepped in and grabbed the hooded man's wrist. "On your knees, now." The man hesitated, eyes flicking toward Walsh like a dog waiting for a whistle. Walsh's voice cut cold. "Don't do anything stupid." The trooper's head snapped. "Deputy, are you directing a suspect?" Walsh spread his hands wider. "I'm trying to prevent violence." Riot's voice came tight to the stream. "Deputy Walsh just spoke to the hooded man who tried to approach us." The trooper didn't argue with the internet. He moved. He wrenched the hooded man's arm behind him and snapped cuffs on, metal clacking loud under the floodlight. Then he turned fully to Walsh. "Deputy Walsh," he said, "you are going to step away from your vehicle and place your hands on the hood. Now." Walsh laughed once, small, incredulous. "You can't cuff me on my own case." "You don't have a case," the trooper said. "You have an Amber Alert you initiated, civilians live streaming a confrontation you orchestrated, and 2 men on record trying to take a child without uniforms." Walsh's gaze flicked to Hannah's bagged ring. "That ring is evidence." Hannah lifted it higher so the cameras could see it shake in her grip. "You planted it," she said, "and you engraved my son's name inside it." Walsh took a step toward her. Jace moved into his path, calm and immovable. "Don't," he said. Walsh's mouth pulled into a thin smile. "You think you can block me forever?" The trooper stepped between them, voice rising like a hammer. "Deputy, hands on the hood." For a half second, Walsh didn't move. The rain ran off his hat brim in steady lines, and his eyes were pure calculation. How much he could get away with, how much he could spin. Then, the siren of another unit cut through the night, short and sharp. A second state vehicle rolled into the service lane and stopped hard behind the trooper's unit. 2 more troopers stepped out, one already raising a flashlight, the other's hand near his holster. Walsh's expression changed. Not fear, not panic, disbelief. Like the world had just refused him. The lead trooper's voice carried. "We good?" "Not yet," the first trooper said, never taking his eyes off Walsh. "Deputy Walsh, last chance." Walsh looked past them, toward the road, toward the fence, toward whatever else he expected to control. Then he took one slow step backward. "Fine," he said, voice clipped. "Fine. Here. Happy?" He turned toward his cruiser as if he was going to comply, hands moving down, body angling. And then he lunged for the driver's door, fast, desperate, a move meant to put steel and speed between him and consequences. The trooper reacted faster. "Stop!" he barked, and when Walsh didn't, the trooper surged forward and yanked him back by the shoulder. Walsh twisted, trying to pull free. The live stream caught it all. Rain, badge, the sudden ugly scramble. Walsh snarled, "Get your hands off me!" The trooper drove him into the hood hard enough to make the cruiser rock. "Hands behind your back!" Walsh fought for 2 seconds, just long enough for the cameras to see exactly who he was when he couldn't charm his way out. Then, the second trooper stepped in, and cuffs clicked shut around Walsh's wrists. Walsh's head snapped up, rage flaring bright. "You're ruining your career." The first trooper leaned close, voice low but caught by the phones anyway. "No, you did." Walsh's eyes cut to Hannah. Even cuffed, even pinned, he tried to make her flinch. "This doesn't save you," he said, spitting rain. "That alert is out. They'll be looking. They'll find the boy." Hannah's blood went cold. "Noah is safe," she said, forcing the words, "and everyone's hearing you say his name." Walsh's smile returned, thin and nasty. That's not the win you think it is. The trooper straightened and spoke to the second trooper. Secure his weapon, secure his vehicle. I want dash cam, I want body cam, I want everything. Then he turned to Hannah, voice shifting just enough to sound human. Ma'am, I need you to show me the ring and anything else you have. Brick held up the bag tracker from the rabbit. Ryder held up the receipt. Riot held his phone steady so the stream could see the timestamp and the evidence in frame. We also have video of him planting it, Ryder said, from Miller's grocery cameras. The trooper's eyes sharpened. You have that footage? Ryder nodded once. 2 copies, not uploaded. Good, the trooper said. Do not send it anywhere until I have a state investigator on it. We'll preserve it properly. Walsh jerked against the cuffs. That footage is tampered. Quiet, the trooper snapped. You've spoken enough. Walsh's face twisted, and for the first time tonight he looked like a man who couldn't talk his way out. The trooper stepped aside and spoke into his radio, voice quick and exact. I need Amber coordinator contact now. I have the child located safe, mother present, suspect deputy in custody for false report and evidence tampering. I repeat, request immediate cancellation and correction notice. Hannah's phone buzzed in her pocket like it was alive. Another alert pinged, but this one wasn't a command. It was a correction trying to catch up with reality. Amber alert, update, child located safe, law enforcement investigation ongoing. Hannah stared at the words until her eyes burned. The air left her lungs in a shaky rush she didn't realize she'd been holding for hours. Mrs. Delgado's voice came out like a prayer. Thank God, Walsh's head snapped toward the trooper. You can't. The trooper leaned closer. Watch me. Then he looked at Hannah again. Where is your son right now? Safe, Hannah said, throat tight. With Mrs. Delgado, not far. Jace stepped forward, finally letting his voice show something. I want to see him. Walsh laughed, even cuffed. Of course you do. The trooper's gaze flicked to Jace. You are? Jace held it steady. Jace Mercer. I'm his father. Walsh tried to turn his head toward the trooper like he was about to feed him a story. The trooper shut it down with a flat look. We'll handle that through proper channels. Right now, nobody touches the child except his mother and the caregiver until I have eyes on him and a supervisor signs off. Hannah nodded hard. Fine. Just take him away from us, the trooper signaled. The second trooper walked Walsh toward the unit. Walsh twisted his head to keep Hannah in his sight, still trying to plant poison on the way out. You'll come to the office, he called. You'll beg me to fix what you broke. Hannah didn't answer him. She lifted her phone, still streaming, and held it up like a mirror. Everyone heard you, she said, voice shaking but loud. Everyone saw you. Walsh's smile finally faltered. Just a crack, like he realized the county was watching him instead of for him. They loaded him into the back seat. The door slammed. The rain kept falling like it didn't care who was law and who was liar. The trooper turned back to Hannah. We're going to retrieve your child now, he said. And then you're coming with us to make a statement somewhere Walsh can't touch. Hannah nodded, numb with relief and exhaustion and a rage that still had nowhere to go. They drove in a small convoy. State unit in front, their car behind, another state unit trailing. For the first time all night, the road felt like it belonged to someone who wasn't hunting them. When they reached the warehouse, Mrs. Delgado rushed ahead, trembling, and opened the door. Noah was awake, sitting on the couch with his stuffed rabbit, restuffed, stitched rough, but whole enough to hold. His eyes went wide when he saw Hannah, and he launched himself off the cushions. Mom! He cried, throwing his arms around her neck. Hannah dropped to her knees and held him so tight she felt him squeak. I'm here, she whispered. I'm here. You're safe. The trooper stood back watching, letting the moment happen. Even Brick looked away for a second. Noah pulled back and looked at Jace, confused again. You from Bar? Jace crouched slowly, keeping his hands visible, voice gentle and low. Yeah, he said. I'm Jace. Noah frowned like he was trying to solve a puzzle. You mad? Jace swallowed once. No, I'm glad you're okay. Hannah felt the ache of everything that had been stolen, years, truth, peace, press into her ribs. She didn't forgive anything in that instant. She didn't forget anything either. But Noah was alive. That was the center of the universe. The trooper stepped closer to the table. I'm taking the ring and the tracker as evidence, he said. But before I bag it, I need a clear shot of the engraving for the record. Hannah reached into the plastic bag with shaking fingers, turned the ring just enough for the inner band to face the camera light. The letters shone sharp. For Noah. Always. Noah's eyes locked on it. "That says my name," he whispered, awed. Hannah's throat tightened. "Yeah," she said, "it does." The trooper finished photographing it, then paused. He looked at Hannah, then at Noah, then at Jace. "We have what we need," he said finally. "Ma'am, I'll log it properly. But I'm going to allow one thing, right now, under my supervision." He held the ring out, not giving it away, just letting Noah see it without fear. Noah reached with both hands like it was something sacred. The ring looked enormous in his small fingers, heavy and cold and real. He turned it, reading nothing but recognizing everything. "Is it mine?" Noah asked. Hannah looked at him, then at Jace, then back at her son. "Yes," she said, and her voice didn't break this time. "It's yours."